My mom is trying to force me and my siblings to move onto a farm completely away from civilization because she's convinced that the government is trying to watch her and her family and essentially manipulate our entire lives. And now, after being pulled out of public school and literally being prevented from doing anything outside the house, let alone even step foot outside the house, I seriously am in a situation where I do not know what to do and I have no idea how to move forward. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk? Dude, this first story is weird. The original poster's mom is completely off her medicine or something because she has these weird, absolutely delusional thoughts that she's inflicting on her kids. And just when you think things are bad in this story, it gets way worse very fast. So with that, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already. Click the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that, let's get started. Okay, so my mom has a tendency to try and make everybody think the exact same way that she does. And then she plays the victim if they don't. And this is just like one of many things that she does, and it's honestly exhausting. Anyways, I'm a 16-year-old female and I live in a state in the southern part of America in a big city. Me and my family moved to this state back in September of 2023 and we've been here ever since. Now, we had previously lived in the Midwest in a town with no more than like maybe 4,000 people. So the difference was absolutely noticeable, going from 4,000 people to like over 1 million people. For years, it was honestly fine. Granted, my experience here has been a little bit lackluster. I like the state, but I don't really like my situation in the state, but whatever. Cut to around the middle of 2024 when my mom decided she hated this state out of the blue. She began rambling on to me and my siblings about how much she hated everything about this state, and none of us agreed since we had enjoyed it here. So after seeing that none of us agreed with her, she decided, you know what, I'm gonna stop driving altogether. Like, she seriously refused to even drive my older brother to work, 3 minutes down the road. We moved to the state for my dad's job, and he had been making more money than he had ever had, with the unfortunate fact that he wouldn't be at home as often, so he's typically only home on like the weekends. So she stopped driving, and me and my siblings stopped being able to go to events and do all sorts of things. So we were literally limited to only going places on the weekends. In 2023, my mom had also decided to pull me out of school and force me and my brothers to homeschool, which was and has since been one of the worst experiences of my life. She claimed that, public schools will indoctrinate you, among other things that just really didn't make any sense. So there went any and all of my social life with no school and no getting to go anywhere. It took a year of trying to make friends and failing miserably over and over again for her to even notice. She didn't even come to the conclusion that I didn't have friends, and I still don't, until I literally had to tell her that's what's going on. To which her reaction was to say, well, it's okay, you're just mature for your age, you don't need friends. So just to recap, she stopped taking my siblings and I to events and stopped driving altogether. She pulled us out of public schools, and now she resented my dad for having a job. And holy crap, I could go on and on because there's so much more than this. She also treats me like the little babysitter who's in charge of constantly watching my little brothers. The 2025 school year rolled around and I had asked my mom if I could please take driver's education, to which she immediately shot down and said absolutely not. She said she didn't want me driving in the state and that was final. Cut to present day, and yeah, I could probably have my license by now if she'd let me take the stupid class. I just want out of the house to get to do things, but she's forbidden me from any form of driving. Among that, she also prohibited me from getting a job because she felt like I didn't need one as a woman, that I need to focus on learning to cook and clean and the whole outdated deal. And now she's even become so freaked out by everything all the time. Everything's a conspiracy to her. I can't even bring up getting our rescue dog like a DNA test just to find out her breed as like mostly a joke, because she will literally twist it into some government mind control thing. She's 100% adamant about running away and living under the radar and off the grid, and is demanding that her kids come with her too. She wants to save us from the end of the world. Anytime I mention my desire to go to college, she also shoots it down, and instead demands that I go live with her on a farm and be uncontrollable. But I don't want children. Her having 2 kids when I was 10 years old, and me having to help raise them, destroyed any desire I'd ever have. Everything with her is always about when you have kids. And every time I tell her no, she lashes out on me by saying, oh, the government hates when you have kids. You have to. Have at least 5 of them. Now, I'm a career first person. Kids will never give me an ounce of satisfaction. I also fall under the asexual umbrella, which she hates me for, saying, oh, you're just being dramatic. And this is just like the tip of the iceberg that spreads out to her hating the state we're living in. Me and my brother have been wanting to do these things like go to a semi-local pool or go to the park, and every time we bring it up, she screams at us and says, no, the crime is too high, you'll get hurt. Or she'll say, your dad moved us here, it's his fault. Like, she doesn't even let us go get the mail most of the time. time. And I'm barely like permitted outside the house in general. Everything we bring up is always negative. I'll say to her, hey mom, can we go to this thing on the weekend? And she'll scream at us, no. If you go, you're gonna die. You really think a homeless person wouldn't hurt a child first chance they get? Which yeah, that's a real thing she said to me. Everything is constantly, I hate this state with her. And when we don't agree, she either screams at us saying we're too naive, gives us the silent treatment, and sometimes up to 4 days straight, or just punishes us for not agreeing with her. There's even talk of her moving to like an off-the-grid farm when I graduate, and all I want is to be able to take my brother with me to college so he's not subjected to her insanity, but it would never work because he's 14 years old. Like I could never make that happen. Even when we say we don't agree, she'll just call my dad and scream at him that we're like 100% on board with moving. And it's like, dude, nobody wants to do this, and yet she can't stand to hear anyone else out. It is literally her way or the highway. If anything, I honestly love this state more than I used to. I miss my old home, but I live here now, and I accepted that. And I seriously just can't deal with her constant negativity anymore. It's seriously affecting everybody. My mom is constantly screaming about her hatred for the state that we live in, and she is seriously penalizing pretty much everybody because of this, and at this point, I really just don't know what to do anymore. Oh my gosh, your mom's crazy. There's no other way of putting it. I understand that people can believe whatever they want to believe, but when you start dragging your children down that path with you, like, oh my gosh, you either need to like jump off of whatever pills you're on or jump on those pills a little bit more firmly because this is some crazy behavior. Like she's talking about moving to a farm and living off the grid. What does that look like? Is she gonna expect you to become a farm and take care of the cows and take care of the chickens? Are you gonna go to the bathroom in an outhouse? Like, dude, if you ever go on that supposed farm she's planning to move to, you will never leave. That is like a trap, a world-ending trap for you. Because dude, you're 16, you want to go off to college, which is normal. You're not going to get hurt. You're going to go get an education and run away from her. Like, holy crap. This is like borderline, you might need to call the state kind of situation. Like, I don't know if social services can get involved, but like, this is some weird behavior. Even on like a practical level, your mom's preventing you from making friends and doing anything in the area. And it's obviously just some like desperate ploy to get you on her side with this state when it's like, dude, we're like living just fine. Nothing's wrong here. Like, dude, I know if I was a teenager and I just moved to a new city, the first thing on my mind would be making new friends and having places to hang out. And she's like literally denying that option for you and just taking it away entirely. Like, that's insane. Like, truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. And I'm really, really sorry that you're kind of like stonewalled from living your life. And hopefully you find some kind of way out of this. Like, dude, I don't even know where I would even start. Like, you can't get a job. You can't go make friends. You can't move out. Like, you're just kind of stuck here. Literally being homeschooled by your mom. Like, dude, what is happening right now? I don't think I could personally live in this situation or deal with this in the slightest. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. This is a pretty unique and very specific experience from this person. So please leave your comments down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, but also please check out Am I the Genius down below in the description. We love what they're doing over there. They're doing some amazing work, and I think you're gonna love it as well. So please subscribe to them down below and check them out. But also on top of that, we want to hear from you. If you want to share your experience with the world, then please go to AmITheJerk.com/submit and share that story with us. I'm reading these stories all the time, and I'm always picking different ones out for different reasons to share with like the audience as a whole. So don't be shy. Share what you think, man, especially in the comment section. I'd love to hear your take on things with like the stories that we share and like some of the takes that I might have. Like, definitely don't be shy. I really do want to hear from you. For example, a couple of months ago, we shared like some stories about these HOAs that are really causing problems in the neighborhood. And a user by the name of Patricia Stewart 6343 basically said that, yeah, she hates HOAs as well. And that in a way, it's kind of like a Karen trying to control how you live. And dude, I could not agree more. I think homeowners associations are incredibly toxic and I don't like them at all. And this is coming from someone who's forced to pay like homeowners association fees. It's obnoxious and I hate it. So yeah, leave a comment. Like, I would love to hear what you have to say. And with that, on to the next story. Am I the jerk for refusing to drive my boyfriend to the emergency room for a second time? Because all my boyfriend has is the flu and he just needs to rest. But despite this, he's demanding that I do it, even though I've got a new job and I'm trying to show up on time. And at this point, I'm frustrated, very pissed off, and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend has been sick with a virus for the last 5 days, and we went to the emergency room on Friday because his headache was unbearable. But we got into an argument earlier because he wants to go again for the medicine they gave him for his headache, and I really just don't see the point. I mean, a month ago, I had intestinal bleeding, so I went to the emergency room, and he didn't even leave work to check on me. He did offer to come, but I said it's okay. I drove myself there like a big girl, I dealt with it, and then I got home. And the last 5 days, I've been nothing but accommodating while I've started a new job. We were at the emergency room Friday from 6 o'clock until 2 o'clock in the morning. And my God, he was such a baby, complaining that no one was moving fast enough and all this other crap. I had packed up a blanket for him, some noise-canceling headphones, an eye mask, and some ice packs as well. Not to mention that I wheeled him around, and honestly, I thought it was a bit excessive. Sure, I can imagine feeling dehydrated, which he got intravenous treatment for, and they gave him a solution for the headache, which was like a medicine they told me they give to much older people, simply because it's stronger than morphine. I kept his family updated because they were checking on him, and his results came back fine. The CT scan was fine, the blood was fine, and the result was that he had a virus. Now, I have to work tomorrow, and it's my second week at the job, but he wants to go, and I said, no problem. Let me ask his sister because she was offering and understands that I just started a new job and wants me to also get some rest. Like literally, she really doesn't mind. So it wouldn't be a big deal if I asked her, right? Well, he was like, no, just drive me. And it's like, why? I then firmly said, without yelling, mind you, look, it's just a virus. Give it time. If you want to go, then your sister can take you. Well, needless to say, he got annoyed and now he wants to go on his own. But it's like, okay, go on then. This will be the second time you go to the emergency room for a flu. Like, whatever, do whatever you want. There are obvious improvements, like he's keeping food and water down and he's been getting sleep. The only reason he wants to go again is to get that medicine that gives him temporary relief from a headache, which I really feel is excessive. In all honesty, I don't mind mild tantrums. I don't mind changing ice packs every hour. I also don't mind helping him get things around the house that he feels he needs. But what was annoying are two things. At the emergency room, he was expecting everyone to adhere to his smallest ailments. I need an ice pack. I want a bed. I want a warmer blanket. Give me another pillow. Where's the doctor? Why can't you offer me medicine? And just like talking to a child, I had to explain that there are others that have way more serious conditions than the flu. Secondly, where was my princess treatment when I was at the emergency room a month ago? You know, with actual bleeding. Not even a visit. No one except him knew I was even there, but even then, I dealt with it. I got my referral, I drove myself home, I slept, and then I went to work the next day. So seriously, am I the jerk really for not taking him to the emergency room for the second time? Because I seriously am annoyed by this, and I just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, your boyfriend is using the emergency room for like the wrong reasons. If he broke an arm or something like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, definitely go to the hospital. But big guy over here just has the flu. Like seriously, what a baby. And trust me, I've gotten the flu, and the flu could be really bad. Like I'm not trying to diminish it, but by no means should you be going back to the emergency room or even expecting your girlfriend to drop everything she's doing and sacrifice her sleep and like her job status just to take you over there. Like, dude, take yourself if you really want it, or accept the ride from your sister. Like, what's going on right now? This also makes like all men look bad, where it's like, oh yeah, the man flu, it's real. Like we see it right here from this guy. He's like, oh, I'm dying. As if he's some prince from like a Renaissance painting who's like dying in his bed. Oh, I just can't take it. Get the doctor, please. I'm passing away. And it's like, dude, you just need to sleep. If you sleep and like drink water and stay hydrated, you're gonna be fine. And dude, where was the original poster's princess treatment? Like, what are we talking about? She was bleeding from her intestines, dude. That is way scarier than the flu. Like, what's going on right now? But guess what? She soldiered on, dude. She said, oh, I'm gonna go to work. I'm not missing out on a paycheck. I don't care if I am bleeding out of my butt. I'm gonna make sure I get to work and do what I need to do. And you know what? She did it. So for the boyfriend to be pretending like he's living through the Spanish flu and he's like, oh, I can't possibly take it. No one can take me to the ER except for you, girlfriend. Like, that is so selfish and honestly, like, really got that pick me energy. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, pay attention to only me. Pick me over anybody else, even your job. Like, dude, you need to have some kind of self-respect because this is embarrassing and honestly, it would really piss me off if I was in the original poster shoes. This next story is proof that sometimes you probably shouldn't be doing business with your best friend, because that best friend might just steal your wife away from you, as the original poster finds out pretty blatantly that his wife has been cheating on him with this best friend, which has obviously sent everybody's life into a tailspin. Here's what happened. Okay, I am really struggling, and I would appreciate some kind of like outside perspective. And please be honest, but I'm not looking for people to like just pile on and tell me I'm an idiot, because I already feel completely broken by this. For a bit of context, I've been with my wife for 19 years in total and married for 8. She has been in my life ever since we were basically kids. We have always had a really strong bond. A lot of love, humor, affection, physical closeness, private jokes, our little routines, and a life together that felt genuinely happy in many ways. Well, the affair I'm about to talk with was with my best friend, and that is one of the hardest parts about the entire situation. Now, this friend was not just someone that she knew casually. He was around our house a lot. He would stay over after nights out drinking, he would come over for dinner, and we also run a business together. My house was often the base where we would work on stuff, maybe every other week. So he was very integrated into my life, my home, my marriage, and my routines. Another important bit of context is that we were almost always together when he was around. I would say around 95% of the time, if my best friend was at my house, I was there too. They were not going off alone together or meeting up privately, going for drinks alone, or arranging one-on-one time behind my back. The only real alone time they had was after I had gone upstairs to sleep, usually after he had had like a round of drinking or after we had been working on our company stuff. And that probably happened around 6 times. My house was often used as the base of our business work, so he would come around and we would work, drink, and have dinner, and then sometimes he would just stay over. Now, from what I know, the affair went on for months. It was mainly through messages, but it was not just flirting. There was some spicy, explicit talk. There were fantasy-type messages, and she even sent him some very spicy photos behind my back multiple times. She originally minimized some of this, and the truth has come out in pieces, which has made it even harder because now I just don't even know where the truth starts and stops. Physically, from what I understand, it didn't become like explicit or physical, if you know what I mean, in like the intimate way. I know people often say that adults don't just kiss, and I understand why people are skeptical because people who cheat often minimize stuff. But in this case, I do have reasons to believe the physical side didn't go further than kissing or like getting a little handsy through clothing, if you know what I mean. Now, the physical stuff happened in my home when he was staying over or around after nights out. And like I said, it all started when I would go upstairs to sleep. Like I was literally upstairs while they were doing all of this downstairs. There was always a real risk that I could come downstairs at any moment. So it doesn't really seem realistic that they would have the time or privacy to fully do the deed, if you know what I mean. I also saw some of the messages from the next day. They were still having spicy talk, and when they referenced what had happened physically, the thing my wife mentioned was that kiss. And my thinking is that if something more significant had happened physically, especially given the nature of the messages, they probably would have referenced that instead. So I'm not saying that I can know without absolute certainty, but based on the setting, the risk of me coming downstairs, the timing, the limited time alone, and the messages afterwards, I'm reasonably confident the physical side was just kissing and getting handsy instead of like going all the way. But that said, it was definitely still physical. It was not just a kiss. He touched her in ways through her clothing that were very suggestive. They were kissing and being very close with one another. Meanwhile, I'm upstairs asleep. Now, the part that really destroys me is that they both knew what was going on for months while still sitting next to me. They were drinking with me, they were eating with me, they were laughing with me, working with me, and acting normal in my own home. I was there with both of them, thinking we were all close, while this hidden thing was happening right behind my back. During this time, we even booked a trip away together, just the 3 of us. It was just gonna be me, my wife, and my best friend. We were meant to go away about 5 weeks after I found out, and that honestly makes me feel sick now, because if I had not found out, we would have gone away together with this still going on underneath everything. And that's another major point. The only reason this stopped was because I found out. My wife has admitted that she does not know how far it would have gone, and she can't really say that it would not have eventually ended in them going all the way. And that is one of the hardest things for me to sit with. It was not something she independently stopped. I literally stopped it by finding out, and that really sucks. I also found out there were messages where she was saying she missed him and couldn't wait to see him again, and that has really messed with my head. Because we were also still having what I felt like was a genuinely good marriage. We were affectionate, we still spent time together, we were going out, we were hugging all the time, and we were even both saying recently that things felt good between us. And that is part of what is so confusing for me. I don't actually question whether the good between us was real. Like, I believe it was real. I believe she loved me and still loves me. But I also cannot understand how something real could coexist with her doing this behind my back for months. But honestly, this entire situation has put me in a really bad place, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Oh man, dude, this is like the ultimate betrayal. Holy crap. First off, your best friend had better become like an ex-best friend and someone you stopped doing business with, because good lord, this guy essentially snatched up your wife and your wife was okay with it. She went along with it all while you're sleeping upstairs. Like, that blows my mind. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Like, this really sucks no matter how you look at it. And honestly, I think you know what the right choice is. Like, I know what I would do in this situation. I can say for sure that I would start jumping ship and making that plan almost immediately. And that's not ignoring the fact that you guys have been together for like 20 years. That for me would be more than enough proof that, yeah, she didn't care about any of that. She threw it away just to have side action with my best friend. Like, that length of time of knowing me and being with me would be more than enough reason for me to be like, oh, I am done with you. There's no way I want to spend the rest of my life with you. So honestly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with that, but holy crap, you deserve so much better than this. Because this is unacceptable and there's no reason this ever should have happened. My entitled, jealous cousin tries to sleep with my husband when I'm not around just to satisfy her weird jealousy that she has towards me and my life. And I'm honestly so blown away by her actions, I simply couldn't believe what she did. Here's what happened. So my cousin, who we will call Mary, that's not her real name, grew up to be an extremely jealous person in her teens. We've all hoped she would grow out of it, but she has not. She refuses to even address it. When I proposed to my husband, who we will call Sean, a couple of years ago, Mary threw a fit. She wanted to be the first to get married between the two of us. She said that she deserved it, even though she didn't even have a boyfriend. Because Sean and I chose to have a small personal wedding, we were able to use money set aside for us to buy a home and to pay off half of the mortgage. And this resulted in another tantrum from Mary, despite the fact that there is money set aside for her too, including from our grandparents and Aunt Miranda, who chose not to have children. So I think you kind of get the picture here. If I have something that Mary doesn't, she wants it. If I accomplish something before her, she screams that it's not fair. It doesn't matter if she's younger than me by 6 years, and I would naturally reach some goals before her. There's just no logic in her tantrums. This then brings us to Miranda's annual New Year's party. There's always food, drinks, and games. It's a fun night where we can get wasted safely with family and friends if we want to, especially since there are no kids in the family at the moment. When I was returning from the bathroom, I saw Sean looking extremely uncomfortable and trying to fend off Mary, who was sitting much too close to him on the couch. I managed to overhear her telling him that women are much better than men and insisting that he try with her because he didn't know what he was missing, if you know what I mean. Also, for reference, I'm a 28-year-old male and Sean is my husband. Now, Sean is 100% gay, so this was just pathetic for her, but I was seeing red over the fact that she was attempting to ruin our marriage to satisfy her jealousy. I said to her, if women are so great, then date a woman instead of trying to get my husband to sleep with you. Now, the entire room heard this and I definitely did not control my volume. So right then and there, the party was essentially ruined. The family has spared us from most of the chaos that followed, but today we found out that the money that was set aside for her is no longer for her. The tuition to pay for the remaining classes for her bachelor's degree has been refunded to our grandparents since spring classes haven't started yet. All the money from her parents is going to her younger brother, and all the money from our grandparents and Miranda is going to be distributed between him and myself. She's getting nothing. She's also been given 3 months to find a new place to live because her parents don't want her living under their roof. She was given a massive leg up just like I was, and she completely ruined it all for herself. Now, I do almost feel sorry for her, but considering all the things that she has done, I still don't feel that bad. Wow, your cousin is super toxic. Like, there's no other way around this. Like, for starters, her temper tantrums are completely uncalled for. Like, she's getting upset over you, like, hitting milestones in your life, and that's, like, really weird in my opinion. Like, why is she so jealous of you? Like, it really seems like she's obsessed with everything that you're doing pretty much all the time, while completely ignoring her own life and her own things that she has going on. So it really makes me scratch my head as to why she's upset that you're getting married and that you're also getting a house and you're paying off half the mortgage. Like, why would that affect her so much that she would be like, wow, you don't deserve it. This isn't fair. Also, for reference, Mary in this story is 22 years old. You would think that somebody at that age would have it more together, even just in a small way. So for her to act like this, even in her 20s, is really disappointing and really cringy. But in my opinion, what she did at the party was so inappropriate. It is really disgusting that she tried to do that to your husband, and that she basically tried to sleep with someone who is practically family at this point. Like, that's really weird, and it's so highly inappropriate. Because just imagine if the roles were reversed in some kind of way, and you decided decided to hit on their spouse or their significant other as some kind of way to satisfy your jealousy for her, that would be an immediate red flag, and that would be so bad. But you know what? Based on the reaction from the family, it seems like everybody's on board and they're like, yeah, this is not okay. And sure, it does suck that she lost all that money, but I am really willing to bet that this is not the first time she's done something super weird. This is most likely the last straw that definitely broke the camel's back, and now the family's like, okay, we're cutting her off from everything. This is just not worth it anymore. So seriously, good for you for standing up for yourself, because your cousin is being incredibly creepy and very weird. And honestly, the blowback she's receiving is kind of deserved. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled sister is constantly walking over our parents, using them for just about everything, while also overstepping boundaries and treating everybody like garbage. And after witnessing this on the sideline for such a long time, I feel helpless to do anything about this. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I want to start off by saying that this story has no good guy. Actually, this story isn't really black and white either. However, one person in this story is arguably worse than the rest of us. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I have two sisters who are 25 and 24. The youngest one, let's call her Jane, has always been the most spoiled between the three of us. At the age of 21, I moved out of my parents' house to join the military, and my other sister, let's call her Claire, moved out at 23 when she was about a year into her nursing career. Despite having a college degree in business administration, Jane still refuses to get a full-time job or even have any responsibility. Her life revolves around clubbing, partying, and going to the gym. To her credit, she did have a part-time job at our local coffee shop as a barista, and this job was her way of funding her lifestyle. But other than that, she doesn't pay bills. My parents pay for everything, from her car to her cell phone bill, and even her tollway when she drives around. Basically, everything a normal, functioning adult would pay for themselves is footed by my parents because she doesn't even have a career yet. And look, I get it. I have a daughter myself, and I would do anything to make sure that she's taken care of, even as an adult. But there is the difference between financial support and straight up coddling. I've brought it up to my parents, specifically my mom, multiple times as to why she doesn't pay for her car, or at least her insurance, but she basically told me that she shouldn't suffer because of what our dad did. Now, for some backstory, my sister was driving a used Honda around 2017 to 2019. The car itself was fairly new when they bought it, so my parents had it financed, and they gave it to my sister so she can get herself to school. Well, suddenly and without warning, my dad took my sister's car, traded it for a brand new 2020 Honda, even though it wasn't paid off. Now, my parents, specifically my mom, as she is the breadwinner, is stuck paying for a brand new car and a car that she no longer owns. Because of my dad's utter stupidity, my mom tried to make it up to Jane by buying her a new car of the same year as her Honda. So not only was my mom paying for my dad's new Honda and my sister's old Honda, to which the balance was put on top of the new Honda, but now she's got this new car as well. But with all that being said, my mom still feels that she shouldn't make Jane pay for the car because of my dad. Because everything was literally handed to Jane on a silver platter, this has made her extremely entitled. And this is to the point where even my parents are scared of her. For example, one time Jane bought Cane's chicken the night before and left her leftovers on the table. Well, my mom saw it and she ate it. And I had just gotten discharged from the military, so I was staying at my parents' house for a while until I saved up enough money to move out. So I saw my sister's reaction to my mom eating her leftovers. I had just gotten home from the store with my husband and my daughter, and as soon as we got home, Jane angrily asked me if I had eaten her leftovers. I told her I was just out with my family and we got lunch on the way back, so I could not have eaten it. Then she called both my parents who were at church, and she then found out that my mom had eaten her leftovers. After that revelation, she started to yell and swear at them over the phone. Even after she hung up the phone, she kept swearing and yelling and slammed doors and cabinets. I mean, my poor daughter saw all of this and was frankly quite scared of her auntie at that moment. The following week, I was at work when I got an angry phone call from Jane asking if I had been in her bedroom. I told her no because I was rushing to work. She then hung up and I thought that was the end of it. But after I got off work, my sister Claire called me and told me what happened. Jane called Claire complaining about how someone left her room open and one of the dogs had pooped in her room. This incident infuriated Jane to the extent that she stormed into her mom's room where our mom was working from home and engaged in a professional phone call with a client. Jane's intrusion disrupted the professional setting as she loudly berated our mom without any consideration for the ongoing business call. My dad apparently came into the room hearing all the yelling, and fed up with my sister's attitude, he angrily tells my sister that if she doesn't like it here, then she can move out of here, which really upset Jane because she then left the house. When I got home that night, I asked my mom why she continues to let Jane step all over her, even going as far as disrespecting her in her place of work. She says that she is her mother and she is supposed to help her children the best that she can, but I keep telling her that Jane needs adult responsibilities, otherwise she won't appreciate the things that she has. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, Jane sounds like a spoiled brat. There really is no other way around this. Like, she clearly is being enabled to act like this, and it really seems like no one's willing to take a stand except for you. And that's so annoying because there's not much you can do in this scenario. Like, it really does fall on your mom and dad to take a stand and say, okay, you've got to move out by the end of the month, or something like that, just to get the message across. Because right now, it's pretty obvious that Jane is taking advantage of your parents. And I think you're 100% right, because I also agree with you that it's time for her to step up and start paying her way as an adult. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law to stop being bitter about my wife's successful pregnancy after my sister-in-law had already had multiple miscarriages? Because right now, I'm kind of at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 26-year-old male and I'm married to my wife who's 24, and my older brother who's 30 years old is married to his wife who's about 28 years old. My brother has been married for longer than my wife and I, and him and my sister-in-law got pregnant quite a few times, but she lost her pregnancy every single time. They keep trying, but either in the first or second trimester, she miscarries. My wife and I got married last year, and she got pregnant a few months after the wedding, and we welcomed our baby a little over a month ago. We celebrated Christmas with her family and New Year's Eve with mine. We had Christmas dinner with a lot of extended family who had not met the baby yet, so they were all quite excited for it. My aunts and cousins and grandmothers were all over my wife and our baby, asking how she was, how the delivery has been, how she was managing the baby's feeding, and all kinds of stuff, which I think is all normal, right? Well, the problem is that my sister-in-law was very noticeably bitter, and my brother was too. I mean, it's not the first time they act like this ever since my wife and I found out about her pregnancy. At some point, my sister-in-law said that she was sick of all the baby talk, which really rubbed me the wrong way. I told her that she could go home and have chicken nuggets all by herself if she didn't like being surrounded by other happy people. Well, she and my brother said that it was kind of insensitive to be talking about that when everyone knows about their issues to have a child. But I told them that it's not my wife's fault that she was able to have a successful pregnancy and to stop being bitter about it. And when I said that, that started a big argument. It's been a couple of weeks now, and I'm still receiving some text messages from my family who are all deeply worried about my sister-in-law and brother after how I treated them badly. Now, I don't think I treated them badly. It's not my wife's fault that she can successfully carry a baby to term. It's not anyone's fault that a new baby in the family is something to talk about. And now, some people are starting to say that I was insensitive. Now, for a bit of extra context, this is not the first time my sister-in-law says stuff like this. She has done similar stuff in my wife's baby shower, as well as the gender reveal party, even her birthday and other family gatherings. She has made unnecessary comments and telling my wife to tone it down, all while opening up gifts for the baby at the baby shower. I mean, my wife was obviously excited, and my sister-in-law thought that she was overly excited. And we had to end the gender reveal party early because she just won't stop crying. We suggested my brother and her leave and that we wouldn't be upset over it, and I even suggested to drive them myself if they wanted to, but they still didn't want to do it. She just wanted to stay and cry in front of everybody else. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, it seems like this is like a repeated scenario with the sister-in-law, and I know if that was me, I would be really annoyed with the way she's behaving. Like, if this baby and the fact that your wife can have a baby is bothering her that much, then in my opinion, she needs to be the one to remove herself from the situation. Because I think to an extent, you are right. Instead of being happy that a baby is brought into the family, she's using this as a license to try and stomp out your wife's enthusiasm, as well as trying to stifle and calm down anybody else who's excited about the baby. And sure, I'm not ignorant to the fact that they've had miscarriages. That is an awful thing, and seriously, I feel very badly for them. But for her to turn around and use that against everybody over any small thing involving this new baby, that in my opinion is incredibly toxic. Like, if that bothers her that much, and if it really does trigger trigger her and upset her in some kind of way, then I really think she needs to figure that out on her end instead of punishing everybody else around her. Now, when it comes to the comments you made at the party, I think you could have been a lot nicer, to be completely honest. And I think in that regard, yeah, you really should not have done that, because obviously this is a very sore subject for her. But I really think it's counterintuitive for everybody else to be forced to walk on eggshells, all because the rest of the family is excited about your baby. But honestly, that's just my opinion. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. Do you think the original poster was in the right, or do you think that he crossed a line? Let us know down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. My obnoxiously needy friend is trying to invite herself on my holiday with me and my boyfriend, and I honestly do not want her to come along with me because I know for a fact she is going to ruin my vacation, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that all the names in this story are fake. So I was having lunch with two of my friends when Ash, who's 25 years old, asked me what my travel plans were for 2024. I told her I was really excited about planning my first overseas trip with my boyfriend, and as soon as I said that, my friend Allie perked up and said, "Oh, let me know when you're going so I can come too." Now, we were both taken aback by the abruptness of her statement, so I gently tried to tell her, "Oh yeah, that'd be nice. However, we would maybe like to do couple things," which she replied by saying, "Oh yuck, but that's fine. I just want to go shopping and get some sun." And right now, I'm trying to figure out how to gently tell her that I do not want her coming on this trip. Here are just a few things that I have issues with. Now, Allie is my friend, but she can be a lot. For starters, she has called me needing help with basic household chores before, making me reschedule my own plans because she, for example, cut her finger to the bone. And for the record, she did not cut her finger to the bone. I live 30 minutes away, and I had to cancel plans only for her to manage to get herself together about 20 minutes into my drive. She's also given herself food poisoning at least 5 times last year. She sprained her wrist, and I had to drop her off at the emergency room at the hospital. She also sprained her ankle as soon as she touched the ocean, so I couldn't go swimming because she'd get lonely on the land. And this particular trip, she was also not initially invited to. Also, on multiple occasions, she's inserted herself into conversations that I am in that literally does not involve her, nor do the other people know who she is. And the worst part about it is that she won't leave. I usually end up excusing myself because I can see the person I'm talking to is getting uncomfortable. She assumes everyone that knows me knows her, and she will even later tell me that she tried to say hi to some people that I knew, but they would just look at her as if they'd never even seen her before. And I just have to keep reminding her that they don't know her, but she insists that she has spoken to them many times, and this honestly gets really exhausting. She invited herself to a birthday party as my +1, and this is when she didn't even know the birthday girl, but claimed that she did. She made my boyfriend and I spend our first Christmas together at her house, all so she wouldn't feel lonely. And she also invited herself to our family's Christmas, where she literally only knew me, so I was left to entertain her to the point that I couldn't enjoy myself. Now, here's the thing. Traveling is expensive. I want to be selfish when I travel, and the last time I traveled with someone who's not my childhood best friend was literally almost a decade ago, and I will honestly have a hard time compromising. This is also going to be my first trip together with my boyfriend. This is my forever partner, so I would like this to be a memorable trip where we each have each other's 100% focus. On top of that, I'm an introvert, and my social batteries are as bad as an iPhone 7. And then, as a result, I'll get cranky, and I don't want to subject my boyfriend to that. My boyfriend has never left the country before, so this is really exciting, but I am also 100% preparing to take on all the mental load while we're traveling. Now, in my awful, blunt brain, I just want to tell her something very straight up. I want to say something like, "Hey, I don't want you there because you're going to ruin the trip. I don't want to eat a romantic dinner for 3 or do a scooter ride for 3 people. You're way too accident prone for me to relax when you're there. Even if you were on the other side of the island, I do not want to get a call from a random hospital saying that you've done all sorts of things to yourself. If you want to go and we happen to be in the same area, you will have to be 1000% fine that I will ignore you." Now, I am by no means stopping her from going overseas. I just don't want the mental load of another person, take into account her wishes, worry if she drowned or dislocated her shoulder, or anything like that. But her rejection sensitivity is very real. She is still a good friend of mine, so I am trying to be gentle with her. I feel like if she goes on this trip with us, I will end up despising her. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. It sounds like your friend is absolutely obnoxious. Like she sounds really attached to you, and she keeps keeps inviting herself into events in your life. And that is really weird and incredibly awkward. So I can completely understand where you're coming from, where you're like, no, I don't want her to come along this time. So I think that not only should you not tell her specifics about your trip, but you can also simply say, no, this trip is just for me and my boyfriend, and then literally leave it at that. If she pries for information, just shut it down immediately. Don't tell her specifics or any dates that you're going or any of the hotels or anything like that, because it literally will not serve you well, and knowing enough about her, she might just try to show up anyways and crash your trip. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be devastated, and I really would start to despise her, especially with all the things that she's done in previous trips. Like, she invited herself to your Christmas party even though she doesn't know anybody there. Like, that is really obnoxious behavior, and seriously, that needs to be like stomped out as soon as possible. And I also hate to say it, but it really seems like she's attached to you because nobody else wants to be her friend. Like, she very clearly uses you as like a doorway to get into these other groups of people, just so she herself can also be included in the conversation. Like, I'm not really sure what she's doing, but it really does seem like she's just not self-aware at all about how weird she's acting. The original poster also goes on to say that her friend is neurodivergent, but in my opinion, that is not a good enough excuse to act this way and basically disrupt everybody else's plans as well as the original poster's life. Like, that 100% falls on the friend to figure out and to manage, and it should not be everybody else's responsibility to navigate around her weird idiosyncrasies. So hopefully this conversation goes well, because the way your friend's been treating you in the past is really awful. And although she may be like blissfully unaware of how she's treating you, I think that it might be time to finally put your foot down and say, no, you cannot come with me on this trip. An entitled, corrupt pastor demands that I give over $300 for a pledge to his church just so he can secretly buy a brand new Cadillac. But after being treated like garbage after volunteering so much of my time at this church, I decided to get some revenge, resulting in mass panic from the rest of my team, as well as a lot of frustration from everybody involved. Here's what happened. So this happened several years ago, back when I was part of a Christian cult-like church, and I was also in leadership. Back when I was 22 years old and very young and impressionable, as a young adult, I was part of the media team for this church. We were responsible for creating videos and flyers, as well as posting on social media and taking pictures. This was volunteer work, but the pastor, we'll call him Pastor Corruption, was very cold-hearted, he micromanaged a lot, and he was a dictator of the religious institution, while often giving us a last-minute project that would keep us up all night just to try and make a video play during service the next day. I mean, we averaged 3 to 5 hours of sleep per night, but this was while I was in school. So during this time, in order to stay on top of my homework and other projects, I would average close to 2 to 3 hours per night, and to be honest, I'm not sure how I survived. I mean, I even had occasional bouts of paranoia, delusions, and awful depression. Now, Pastor Corruption loved money. He had a giant 6-bedroom house for himself and his wife, and all of this was coupled with heated driveways and the latest model Cadillac, which sat atop of said driveway. The church building itself was overinflated, which sat close to 1,000 people, but maybe had a congregation of only about 400 people or so. But more than Pastor Corruption's love of money was his love for other people's money. 70% of the sermons were regarding how you needed to give the shirt off your back to the church, or else you didn't love God and you were going to hell, which is ironic considering their accountant had been caught embezzling funds in the past. This went beyond any kind of standard tithing, which was 10% of what you make, and included pledges, fundraisers, and giving for church events, as well as going to retreats that made a profit for the attendees, Pastor Corruption, and his pack of goons. And they would shame you for not giving money and for being poor, while also openly bragging about how God blessed them after these rounds of extortion. Well, one day, it is near Pastor Corruption's birthday, and his pack of goons decided that the pastor's car from last year's model was too old, and he definitely needed a brand new car. They took a pledge from all the ministry departments to pay for said car, and the minimum pledge you were allowed to make was about $300, and of course, the media team was no exception. So me, the broke college kid with a minimum wage part-time job, decided that was impossible, and I just wasn't going to pledge anything. This led to several hour-long lectures and shaming sessions, all about how I was seen as a leader and I needed to set an example, which by the way was blatantly not true. I mean, I wasn't seen by anybody because I always worked behind the scenes. So finally, I got fed up and I got worn down to the point that I confessed that I couldn't pledge because that would be taking all of my rent money. I live with some other leaders from the church at the time, and I shared a room with another girl. $300 doesn't seem like a lot now, but at the time, for not even having my own space or a place for my bed, this honestly was a highway robbery, especially for a broke college kid. A girl who lived with me, who also was lecturing me, told me just to pledge the money anyways, and then I could pay the rent later. So eventually, I was coerced into giving the $300 for Pastor Corruption's stupid car, and now he had 2 brand new Cadillacs sitting in his heated driveway. Well, fast forward, and 3 days after rent was due, the girl who lectured me about pledging comes up and asked me for the rent money. I said to her, "Look, I don't have it yet." She said to me, "What do you mean you don't have it? I gave you 3 extra days to figure out something." So I looked at her and I said, "What am I supposed to do here? Do you want me to pull it out of thin air?" She then remarked that maybe I should have been more responsible with my spending. But I said to her, "Look, I have spent $2.16 on myself in the last 3 weeks, and it was to get a coffee so I don't crash my car while driving because of lack of sleep." She then jumped in and said, "I'll give you until the end of this week, but you can't expect us to cover you any longer than that. You are being extremely selfish." So now, on top of worrying about juggling projects between school and the church, I need to worry about not getting evicted. Then I decide to come up with a plan. I'll just pawn off my laptop, since it had just come out recently and I decided to splurge and buy the latest model when my last 6-year-old laptop took a dump on me a few months before. I used it for schoolwork, but they had labs I could use on campus that would help me get by. However, the thing I used it for was media projects for the church. You know how Pastor Corruption likes money? Well, he didn't like spending money. So the media team had a 13-year-old desktop that was overloaded with files, which severely slowed down its already laggy performance, and it caused it to take several hours to render videos. That is, if they don't fail or corrupt. When I had gotten my laptop, it was fairly decent at rendering large files in under 10 minutes, and it had amazing clarity and graphics, so they had convinced me to switch to using my laptop for all things media related rather than using the decade-old desktop. I didn't mind because it didn't interfere with my schoolwork that much, but all the templates for social media and other videos and files were on my laptop now, meaning every week I was responsible for getting everything updated and handing off the final version of the file to the head of the media team. The girls I live with would help me edit these files when we were home, as we were the leaders of the media team. This means that all of the recent files of projects they needed were on my laptop, and no backups were made on the church-owned desktop. So I pawned my laptop, I got the rent money, and I paid the leader without saying anything about how I managed to get the money in a single day. Saturday night rolls around, which is usually when we worked on the video files that we needed for the next day, and that's when they asked me where my laptop is so we can get started. But when they asked me, I said, "Well, I don't have it." They looked at me and said, "Where is it?" But I just responded by saying, "I pawned it off." Now, when I said that, they literally could not believe what I said. They said, "What? Why?" I responded by saying, "I needed to pay you rent money. I had no other way to get you the money. I couldn't afford the pledge, but you graciously gave me an extra 3 days to pay it and make up for my rent I used to pay for the pledge. This is one of the most valuable items I own, so I figured it was the quickest way to repay you." Well, when I said that, they all started freaking out. They wanted me to go get the laptop right then and there, but the pawn shop was closed by that point. So they rushed to the church and fire up the desktop and desperately try to recreate the videos we needed from scratch. However, they have no backups since mine was being exclusively used, and the programs and versions that I was using versus what that awful computer had was completely different. In the end, we didn't even have anything ready in time for service that Sunday morning, and the entire media team got yelled at by Pastor Corruption. I got double yelled at by the leaders of the media team, but it was worth it to see them in panic. Several months later, I ended up leaving the church altogether, and I was nice enough to give them all the files of stuff I had on my laptop. My only regret is being so amicable when I left, because that place sucked, and I hate Pastor Corruption so much. However, the last I heard, most of the people I knew there have left the church, and the church itself has even downsized considerably, and it's even moved buildings. I assume, though, they never got a new desktop for the media team after I left. This is one of the many outrageous aspects of this church, but it made me never want to deal with organized religion ever again, and now I'm mostly agnostic. Wow, those people were super corrupt and honestly so disgusting. Who in their right mind would be like, "Okay, pay us $300, and then 3 days later roll up and be like, "Okay, we need another $300 that you don't have"? Like, these people are insane. Like, that money money pledge wasn't going to anybody who actually needed the money. It was obviously going to get that pastor a new car, and that is so corrupt and disgusting. They might as well be stealing people's money and using it for stuff that you're definitely not expecting it to be used for. So honestly, I think with all things considered, I'm so glad the original poster got away from that church, and they were able to, in some kind of roundabout way, get back at these people for treating you so poorly. Because people like this who prey upon other people's like generosity are truly some of the most toxic people on planet Earth. And it's really good to see that you were able to get away from them. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled grandmother is absolutely awful to live with, and despite our several attempts to try and get her to move out, she refuses to leave. And now we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I love my grandmother with all of my heart, but she is very difficult to live with. She moved in about 6 years ago due to a hurricane that damaged her roof. She was only supposed to stay in a couple of months because we were trying to fix her roof, but also she had to get some kind of surgery for her arm. We were understanding, and we just don't want her to stay alone in her new damaged house, all while healing from surgery. So at first, we had no problem with her being here. Within the first few days of surgery, she was acting very sickly, constantly needed help with this or that, but whenever family came over and all the attention was on her, and they were talking to her about things that she likes, she suddenly was no longer sick or fragile. She was running up and down the stairs, showing off all the stuff that she bought. She pretty much forgot that she was a frail old lady. She only came here with a basket of clothes and a suitcase. We thought she came with a suitcase because she travels a lot, because she's a singer and does tours from time to time, but looking back at that now, she was probably plotting to move in with us. When she first moved in, my brother wasn't here, so she got to stay in his bedroom, and it didn't take much time for the room to get kind of stuffy because she loves shopping and buying things, especially things that she doesn't need at all. That room was huge, and for her to take up so much room within a month was just crazy. Another weird thing is that she will buy an entire outfit and then only wear it once for her performance. So just try to imagine how much clothes have been stuffed into my brother's closet. But now try to imagine her buying more clothes, and now she's trying to put that in the closet. And with this spanning her entire career as a performer, she has so many clothing options and shoe options that she's bought all in her house, literally in a single room of her house, that for some reason she never wants to touch or wear again, and yet she still refuses to even get rid of it, even though she completely abandoned her house. And she even bought a storage garage just to fill it up with more useless things that she's never gonna look at again. Well, fast forward, and a couple of months later, my brother wants to move back in. Now, she was angry, so she asked my mother why her own grandson was moving back into his childhood home, while also asking where she's supposed to stay. Well, my mom basically told her that she can go back home now since her arm is healed, and she just came back from tour, so she should have enough money to fix the roof. But she said that a couple $100s from tour isn't nearly enough money to make her move back into her house, which is a complete lie. So she asked if she can move into my mother's personal room. So for reference, my mom has 2 rooms. Her bedroom that she shares with my dad, and the second room is her hobby room. She barely slept in her bedroom, so that hobby room was her personal room. She did everything in that room. She ran a personal blog for her clothing that she crafted herself. She did makeup tutorials and made beautiful wigs. She was basically a content creator while also being a hairstylist. She needed that room for work and content. My grandmother knew all of these things and insisted on moving in that room. So my mom reluctantly let her move in. And my mom is now miserable and very frustrated because of all of this. She has basically put her life on pause, all because grandma won't move out of that room, and it looks horrendous in there. And I swear, there is a rotting odor in that room. My mom's room was pretty spacious, so when my grandmother moved in there, she did exactly what she does best. She hoards a bunch of stuff. Now, we can't even fit in that room. There's only a small space to walk in and out of it, and there's some weird rotting smell in that room, but I think it's either from a pile of clothes or the fact that my grandmother showers only once a month. Now, I'm not exaggerating here, I seriously counted, and we can all tell when she's showering because of weird noises that she makes in there. And also, this might sound weird, but she absolutely destroys the restroom. Imagine a quiet, peaceful night, and you're about to fall asleep when suddenly you hear Rack City by Tyga inches away from your bedroom in the restroom. And mind you, your bedroom is in front of the restroom, so you have to hear a 70-year-old woman go to the bathroom in there. That kind of gives you a good picture into what I'm dealing with. Also, she's always aware whenever someone else is done cooking. She listens to every sound and movement and knows exactly exactly when you're done cooking food before you can tell anybody else. And then she proceeds to eat most of the dinner. And now we barely cook because she keeps taking all the food. Not only that, but when she does cook, she cooks only for herself. She literally listens to your every move, and she will listen to every conversation you've had in the privacy of your own room. She tries so hard to avoid my mom because my mom wants to have the conversation about when she's going to move out. And my parents' room is right next to the room my grandmother's in, so she's listening to possibly everything that they say and do in there. She knows when my mother is moving around. She knows when we are with our mother and talking to her about whatever. And I'll never forget when we complained about how grandma eats all the food and cooks for no one but herself, and how we were tired and felt so uncomfortable around grandma. But then the next day when she cooks again, she surprises all of us and actually made us something. And this is all a pattern too, by the way, because I know that she hears us complaining in her bedroom, and then after us complaining, the next day she'll order pizza or something like that. I wouldn't even be surprised if there was a peephole in my parents' bedroom. Also, let me just add that we don't care about her cooking for us. We honestly really appreciate it all the time. It's just the fact that we always notice that she is very selfish about it. And the worst part about it is that if we go out to eat some food and we come back home with food for ourselves, she'll just complain and say that we're treating her like garbage. And don't even get me started on fixing up the house, because there is a range of things that she will do. The first few times we tried to talk to her about the house, she would just complain about how she doesn't have the money, and how when she tours she's not making much money, and how she's basically being paid pennies to perform. Except that's not true at all, because when we do go to see her perform, she is done with her gig and she actually gets paid. And it's usually about $2,000 or more per performance. So just imagine how much money she makes in a month-long tour. She'll brag about it on Facebook about how much she's getting paid and where she's going. So we know it is definitely not about the money. Then during my freshman year of college, things got even more drastic. Now, every time my mother mentions the house, suddenly my grandma is sick and can't walk, and suddenly needs to be pampered and taken care of. She had a pinched nerve in her back, but acted like she just got hit by a train or something like that. Every time I would leave my room, she would moan super loudly. So when I tried to use the restroom, she would moan loud like she needed help. Then I would stay in the restroom and she would suddenly go quiet. Then as soon as I'm back to my room, she starts moaning loud again. Then I stay in my room for a second and then she's quiet again. I mean, she's just completely faking it. I started to ignore her because I knew she didn't need help. But then suddenly she gets up and walks to my mom's room just so she can talk to her. But my mom plays dead because she doesn't want to deal with her either. And then once my grandma sees that my mom is asleep, or at least pretending to be asleep, she just magically straightens up her back and dashes to the restroom as if nothing was wrong with her. She also still does this every time we talk to her about the house or about moving out. Suddenly her back hurts and she can't move, and then she'll call the ER and comes back home the same day because there's nothing actually wrong with her. Now, I know you're probably wondering, well, why not move into an apartment? She has all this money, why not just tell her to get out? Well, we tried that and it didn't work. Actually, she was the one that kept insisting to move into an apartment since she knew we wanted her out of the house. She said that in an argument with my mom, and my mom actually took her to go shopping for apartments the next day. Well, grandma just had to double it, I guess, because as soon as they found the nearest apartments, my grandma said that she needs to go to the emergency room because she thinks her blood pressure is rising. Like, she is so full of garbage. So now you're probably wondering, why not get her to move in with someone else? Well, we've tried that too, and we really regret that so much. My grandma finally contacted my uncle because suddenly she really cares about her only great-grandchild. She spends the whole day there and then comes back home with some garbage. She told our uncle that she was getting mistreated and that my mom was going to kick her out and leave her out on the street. And my uncle for some reason believes this, despite knowing how narcissistic she is, and then starts this big argument with my mom. My mom then explains to my uncle what is actually happening, and he's dumbfounded to find out that his mother is doing what she does best. Then he offers to my grandmother a room in his house if she ever leaves ours. My grandmother later refuses because there isn't a nearby airport and there's nowhere that she can shop for more clothing. And we are all still dumbfounded at how consistently self-centered and narcissistic she truly is. Like, she really does have a self-serving personality. And that wasn't even the only time she went around accusing us of mistreating her. When the ER came to our house during one of her fake episodes, she told one of the people taking her to the hospital that she was so sick and that she had not eaten in days. I mean, we were all about to lose our minds. We just could not believe that she was saying any of that. We were cooking for her, we were heating up soups for her, buying electrolyte water for her. I mean, we were taking care of her, and that's what she decided to do. Throw us under the bus for literally no reason. Luckily, nothing happened after that, but she still does that from time to time, where she will complain to someone that we're trying to throw her out on the streets. I mean, she just loves to play the victim. Unsurprisingly, she also wasn't a good mother to both of her children and pets. The best way I can describe her relationship with my mom is pretty much the movie Mommy Dearest, because she treated her daughter like garbage when my mother was a child. My grandmother always made sure she had the best clothing and shoes and hairdos, while her children constantly struggled, and she treated my mother the worst. She would find any reason just to hurt her. As my mother got older and my grandmother got none the wiser, my grandma was expecting everyone to treat her like a celebrity, and she is still like this. She thinks that she paid her dues and believes now that she is fully entitled to live here with us despite everybody wanting her out of the house. She fully expects everybody to take care of her even if she mistreats them. She also insults everybody and is extremely bigoted. She loves degrading others over their appearance while not looking too good herself. She loves making fun of overweight people despite gaining over 50 pounds within a few years. She also forgot her grandchildren are also pretty overweight themselves. She'll smile and call me pretty and my brother handsome, but then she'll insult her other two grandchildren who don't have to deal with her. Honestly, my grandmother is way too much to handle, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your grandma is a handful. Like, you were not kidding when you said she is obnoxious and a lot to deal with. Like, this lady is basically trying to make it so she never leaves your house. She has invaded all of your space. She's been very rude and disrespectful to your mom and dad and to you and your brother, and she's clearly faking illness just so she can have a place to stay and not have to go back to her house for some reason. Like, seriously, if she really does feel like she's being mistreated, then why on earth would she stick around? Like, she clearly is lying and she doesn't feel that way, and instead just wants to take advantage of your mom and dad's kindness, all while refusing to move on with her life and go back to her own home. Like, her behavior across the board is completely unacceptable, and I don't blame you for feeling overwhelmed and really annoyed by your grandma. I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would have lived there for 6 years. It would have taken 1 year of me dealing with that, and then I would have moved out and found my own place. Like, she's already invading everybody's privacy, she's lying to medical staff about how she's being treated, and she is all around just being a nasty person. So in my opinion, it is definitely time for her to get out and find some other place to live. You all have put up with this for 6 years. The only reason she's sticking around is because she has a free place to live, and she has a new batch of people that she can manipulate and treat like garbage. So hopefully that happens sooner than later, because honestly, if I was in your shoes, there is no way on earth I could ever live with that lady. My entitled sister-in-law has over $300,000 in debt and constantly asks money from family members and friends just so she can live a lavish lifestyle. But everything got so much worse after my mother-in-law passed away, as my sister-in-law turned into an absolute monster, doing things to the family that none of us ever expected. Here's what happened. Okay, so for the sake of the story, I'm gonna call my sister-in-law by the name of Shirley. Shirley is not her real name. And trust me when I say this, she is a class act. So she has basically been taking out credit cards as well as loans from banks, friends, and family ever since she turned 16 years old. Because in her words, she didn't want to be a poor, low-class loser like her parents. Well, she has now run up about $300,000 in debt. And this is in a poor country, so it's even worse. She has at least 3 maxed out credit cards, as does her husband, and I'm honestly not even sure how many. She has borrowed untold thousands from her loser parents, as well as from other family members whom she has criticized endlessly for being low class in private. She borrowed several thousands from my husband several years ago, but he stayed on her to pay him back, even though it took a few years. When he gave her the loan, she said it was to pay off her house. She has a 5-bedroom villa in a very nice area of the city, but instead she put down payments on 2 brand new cars, even though both of her older ones were relatively new and working fine. Her daughter attends an exclusive private school and always has the latest tech. They even go on beach trips a few times a year. Her philosophy is really twisted. She says that she will pay the creditors off a bit at a time by borrowing money from friends and relatives, who are much easier to put off instead of drowning in massive debt. She thinks that she's a genius, that no one else can manage money like her, and she has poked fun at my now husband, and I prefer low-key living as opposed to having all the newest, flashiest things. But here's what makes her a truly terrible person. She basically bled her parents, especially her mom, completely dry of any money. Her parents, who are my in-laws, in-laws own their own home. They're not rich, but their pensions cover most of their needs, and my husband helps them out as well. My mother-in-law found out she had cancer a few years ago, and my husband wanted all 3 kids to pitch in and take her to the Capitol for treatment and set her up in an Airbnb while she recovered. Shirley refused to contribute, saying that the state-run medical system was fine instead. She said that her husband is a doctor there, and he would oversee everything that was going on. My husband was enraged, but his mom agreed to it, so there was not much that he could do. After a grueling year, my mother-in-law was finally cancer-free. Shirley's husband did periodic checkups, would occasionally send her labs, and she remained in remission. Then, a year later, she began complaining of a pain in her back, and Shirley and her husband brushed it off for months, saying she just needed to rest more. Then, one day, suddenly my mother-in-law couldn't move her legs. After being rushed to the local hospital, the doctors found that she had a massive tumor in her spine that had essentially broken her back. And you know what? The same song and dance occurred again. My husband once again insisted on getting private care in the Capitol, with Shirley rejecting that outright. She said she would take care of her in her own home, as her husband had confirmed the cancer was too far advanced and that now she just needed hospice care. And while this did enrage my husband, my mother-in-law also agreed. Shirley suggested that they could hire a team of nurses, but then she requested that my husband pay for that because Shirley can't do it right now, but she will pay him back. So my mother-in-law went into hospice care at Shirley's house, and we were there as much as we could be, but we had a baby and we lived far away. Once while I was there, my mother-in-law pulls my husband aside and tells him that she's scared because Shirley has been pressuring her to sign some documents and the painkillers were fogging up her brain and she simply didn't understand. Shirley told us that they were just power of attorney documents to allow her to make emergency decisions. Now, we were uncomfortable, but since my mother-in-law was living there and Shirley's husband is a doctor, we thought it would be okay. Well, eventually my mother-in-law passed away, and the day of the funeral came around with Shirley and her family nowhere to be found. We called and called, but we got no answer. We asked one of the aunts about it, and she just rolled her eyes and told us what happened. Apparently, this aunt had been planning the funeral with Shirley and my father-in-law, and during the planning process, she discovered that Shirley had convinced my mother-in-law about a year ago, right before the doctors found the cancer, and while her doctor husband had been caring for her, to take out a life insurance policy on herself, with Shirley as the sole beneficiary. We would later find out that she somehow bribed a notary to fake the death certificate date, as well as the cause of death, so that she got more money. I'm not sure how that worked, but that's what I was told. In the country we were living in, pretty much anything is possible with a bit of cash. She had also convinced my in-laws to sign over ownership of the house to her, so she could secure another large loan from the bank using the house as collateral. But the house was actually supposed to go to my husband and my brother-in-law. Well, my husband and brother-in-law get on the phone with Shirley and confront her. Shirley starts screaming at them, telling them their lives have been so much easier than hers, and that she has done so much more for their parents than they have, as well as telling a whole bunch of lies about how my husband has always been a freeloader. But for the record, he has worked since he was 13 years old, he paid for his own education, and has a higher level job after working like a dog for 2 decades. She said everyone has always taken advantage of her, and that's why she is in so much debt, because in her eyes, everyone else is at fault except for her. We did go no contact after that, but my brother-in-law and father-in-law have gotten sucked back into her orbit again, and both have loaned her money. She has even been trying to get my father-in-law to let her sell the house for him, and then she'll give him an allowance every month out of the money from the sale, and he can live with her. Meanwhile, my husband and I moved to the United States, and we are enjoying our debt-free lives, ever thankful that we live far away from my sister-in-law. Wow, that sister-in-law seriously has worked the system from the very beginning. Like, that is insane to me that you would rack up $300,000 in debt. And this is all stuff that would have been preventable. It doesn't even sound like reasonable debt that you would have from, like, I don't know, having a house or a car or something like that. This all sounds like frivolous spending from someone who is really irresponsible and clearly super entitled. So with all things considered, I'm so glad you're away from this lady, because she is incredibly toxic, and anyone at this point who gives her money or loans her anything might as well kiss that goodbye, because based on her history, there is no way she's ever gonna pay anybody back. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mom has an emotional breakdown every time I tell her that I'm moving out, and despite the fact that I'm going to another city to pursue my job job of choice, she is still absolutely furious that I'm leaving, demanding that I take a lower paying job in my hometown just so I could still be around. Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old female and I just finished college with my BSN and I got my registered nurse license earlier this week. I've been offered a position in my desired specialty the next state over, about 5 hours away. The city is double the size of my current town and has much higher crime rates, but it's a good opportunity and I'm excited about starting a new adventure. But the only people who are not excited for me are my family, especially my mom. She is just so angry at the prospect of me taking this job. She's mad that the pay is lower than my other opportunities, that there's no sign-on bonus, and that I will know no one in my new city. She ignores me when I tell her that new grad positions in my specialty are few and far between, that I'm not signing a contract that locks me to the hospital, that the hospital has excellent ratios, and that I'm 22 years old with no significant other or children tying me to my hometown, that I have no significant asset to lose if I do fail, thus making this the best time to take a chance. She is just so focused on being angry. She keeps making passive-aggressive comments about how I feel that she didn't support me enough through college, which isn't true. I paid my way through my bachelor's degree on my own, and she hates me saying that. I know she'll be hurt if I don't involve her in the moving process, but when I do try to involve her, such as showing her apartment or looking at furniture, she just blows up and accuses me of shoving it in her face. Last night, she tried once again to convince me to apply to other jobs closer to home after she asked what my plan was, and I gave her the same answer I've been giving for over a month. When I pointed out that these jobs were at hospitals with poor ratios and bad reputations, and not in my desired specialty, she blew up again, told me that she's not arguing with me, and then went to bed for the night. I'm just so exhausted, and beyond that, I'm hurt. Her neighbor's 19-year-old son just left for the Air Force, and she talks frequently about how awful his stepmother is for being mad about him leaving when he's such a good and sweet kid. I've spent my entire life trying to please her. I didn't even apply to schools outside of my hometown when I graduated high school. I paid for my degree so my parents didn't have to shoulder the burden. I worked 2 to 3 jobs around the clock since I was 18 years old, despite being a full-time student. I've never tried any illegal substances. I barely drink. I've broken up with partners to make her happy. I'm also very involved in helping with my chronically ill younger sister and my delinquent little brother. I'm in a constant anxious state of trying my best, if that makes sense, and it's a constant march towards an unattainable goal. And yet in her eyes, I'm not good enough, nor responsible enough, nor ready to try to be independent. Look, I love my mom and my family. I feel so guilty about leaving that it's literally eating me up inside. I'm supposed to move in a week from today, and I have no idea how to leave on good terms between us. She keeps giving me bills for various things, and I'm worried that she's going to charge me more once I'm actually gone, and my savings will be totally depleted. And right now, I'm just so exhausted, and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your mom's being toxic for a few reasons, but one of the bigger reasons is the fact that she only wants you to stick around because she doesn't want to take care of your sister and your brother, or even take care of the bills around the house or stuff like that. In my opinion, I think you've worked very hard for your nursing degree, and for your mom to be like, no, stay with us, take care of us instead, or even try to hold you back in some kind of way just to make herself happy, that is honestly such a criminal thing for her to do, and if I were in your shoes, I would ignore her completely, because you literally have your whole career ahead of you. You're about to have a nursing job in your specialty, and this is in a city that's away from your hometown. And sure, you feel guilty about leaving your hometown and it's eating you up inside, and I totally understand where you're coming from, but I really think that this job is a huge opportunity for you, and to turn it down just to make your mom happy once again in your life would be a massive mistake. So hopefully that transition can go well, and hopefully she doesn't try to shove all these bills on your back, because frankly, she's only doing that because you're leaving. And honestly, I think you really need to start stepping up for yourself and move forward with your career. I can no longer take my boyfriend's incompetence, especially when it comes to keeping the house clean. And at this point, I'm so grossed out and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years and living together for 3 months. He is so loving, caring, sweet, kind, and just about everything. He has helped me through so much in the short time that we've been together, and I can always rely on him to be my support system. However, he is so messy, and I really mean incredibly messy, and that's not for lack of trying. I do most of the cooking, so he does most of the cleaning, and by that, I mean tidying. He never does any deep cleans like properly sweeping everything, wiping things down, or stuff like that. When we first met, he didn't realize you had to go back and forth hoovering laboring, or that you have to lift things up to vacuum under them, or lift things up to wipe down underneath them. But I will say I have taught him how to clean. I have shown him how to do it. I've written him step-by-step instructions on what to do, and this hasn't happened once or twice. This has happened numerous times. Today, I came home after staying at my parents' house, and I was gone for a month and asked him to clean the house. Well, he said that he did, and he was really excited to show me. I went to the bedroom, and immediately there was filth everywhere. Food packages, clumps of hair, cans, bits of general waste, and loads of dust. I go to the bathroom, and his beard hair is all over the floor, but he shaved it 2 days ago. My pads are still in the bin, and it stinks. The whole carpet is filthy, and I feel so uncomfortable even walking on it with my bare feet. I immediately tidy up as much as I can, and I start crying. I was on an 8-hour coach trip and came back to this. The whole time I'm tidying, he's telling me to stop, saying he washed the dishes and all this other stuff, and he thought that he did a really good job. At night, he asked me why I was in a mood, and I admitted that I expected things to be clean, and him being so excited to show me a clean house that is actually filthy has made me realize I expect too much from him, and that I cannot live the rest of my life like this. He then went off in a mood and went to bed. Worse yet, the bed is lumpy because there's lumps of God knows what under the sheets that he obviously didn't brush off before putting clean sheets on. It's making me feel so dirty and gross, but I don't want to sleep on the sofa and make things worse. Honestly, I can't live my life like this. I feel disgusted, filthy, and stressed, but besides all of that, my boyfriend is wonderful, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, there's no way on earth I would ever want to still live with that guy. If I was in your shoes and I knew for a fact that my bed wasn't clean, let alone the rest of the house, I would immediately be like, okay, I gotta find a place to live. But also, this is a very good look into who you would be living with if you did decide to get married in the future. Because what you're describing is honestly unacceptable, and I can't honestly think of a good reason for anyone to be this messy. Am I the jerk for cooking dinner for my girlfriend instead of taking her out like I promised earlier in the week? Because right now she is very angry with me, and at this point I don't know what to do. So my girlfriend and I have been dating for a little over a year. We're both in college, and to be honest, I don't feel like going out most of the time. So I almost always suggest my girlfriend to stay in my apartment and to order something or to cook something instead of going out. I often don't want to go to parties or such with her, which annoys her a lot. The other day, my girlfriend mentioned a new sushi restaurant in our town and asked if we could go. Originally, I agreed. I said that we could go on Friday. However, I didn't feel like going out last night. So instead, I cooked dinner for us, and when she came to my apartment, I told her that we could leave it for another day and eat at home. Well, when I did that, she was annoyed and said that I always do the same thing, but I told her to chill out because we could go on another day. I mean, it's not like the restaurant's going anywhere. I cooked carbonara pasta for dinner, but my girlfriend said that she won't have it because she wants fish and not pasta. I told her, okay, we can order sushi if you want, and I just rolled my eyes, which made her go off on me, telling me that she feels like I want to hide her, as if I'm embarrassed by her or something like that, even though that's definitely not the truth at all. She knows my family and friends, and I make all the time that I can to spend time with her, and I'm certainly not ashamed of her because why would I be? I'm just not an outgoing person, and she knows it. She had said something similar a few months ago because I didn't post enough about her on social media. I also got upset over her comment, and I told her that she can leave if she doesn't like how I am, but then she got her stuff and she did in fact leave. I sent her a message today so that we could talk and try and make up, and she told me to give her 1 or 2 days to think about it. Now, I don't think that what I did was that awful, but seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, to be completely honest with you, yes, I do think you're the jerk here. You promised your girlfriend you're gonna go out and get sushi on Friday night, and instead of talking to her and being like, hey, let's have different plans or something like that, you decided to make the plans for her and be like, psych, we're gonna eat some pasta here at my house. Like, what are you doing? That's like super rude. You just completely ignored all of your plans and said, okay, we're gonna do it my way because I don't like going out. Like, if you're gonna make plans, at least have the decency of following through instead of changing them suddenly all because you don't like them. Like, that's the worst part about it, because I can completely understand where your girlfriend's coming from. She's tired of eating at your house. And you know what? She's right. It is the same thing over and over again. And the fact that you don't see that, or maybe you don't want to see that, is like really toxic in my opinion. So yes, I think you are the jerk, and I think your girlfriend has every right to be upset with you, especially for changing plans without talking to her first. Am I the jerk for telling my parents and my sisters that I don't need them to name my baby, and that I will never use any of the names that they suggest? Because right now it's all getting super obnoxious, and at this point, I don't know what to do. I'm an 18-year-old female, and my boyfriend and I are expecting a baby. His family is so kind and supportive, but most of mine are not, with the exception of my two brothers who are great. The rest of my family say we are too young and have second-guessed all of my choices, from researching formula because I won't be breastfeeding, to the names that we have looked at. I moved in with my boyfriend a couple of months ago, which was a little earlier than we had planned, but we both wanted to get away from the comments. We have started buying stuff and we know we're having a little boy. My parents and sisters originally told me that when they heard I was having a boy, that they think that I should name him after George, who's my great-grandfather. I told them we weren't looking for name suggestions and asked them to not push the issue. Then they asked what the name we were thinking of was, and I said we weren't going to share until he's here. Well, that wasn't taken very well, and they decided that we must have an awful name lined up, so they made a list of a bunch of names that they thought would be good. But I told them again that we did not want or need names suggested because we had our own ideas. I ignored them the next couple of times that they mentioned names, but then Christmas Day they had a field day because my oldest sister grabbed my phone while I was in the bathroom and she searched for a list that I had on there. We were at my older brother's house, by the way, and she showed my mom and my other sisters, and she tried to involve my brothers, but my oldest brother told them that they can leave if they wanted to start stuff at my house in front of his family. But they did end up starting some drama and asked me what in the world I was thinking and demanded that I choose one of their names. The names that set them off were Sloan and Finley. They were the two I had on a list on my phone, and my brother did have to kick them out in the end because they said I could not ruin my son with a name like that, and then said my boyfriend was a bad influence because he wants another dumb name like Jackson. I told them I was just as much a part of the naming of mine and my boyfriend's baby, and just because the names aren't to their taste doesn't mean they have the right to insult us. I had to block them on my phone since Christmas because they were going crazy blowing up my phone. But then I got an email with an even longer list of names 2 days ago, so I unblocked them temporarily, and in a family group chat I told them that this is my baby and I do not need or want them to name him for me, and I will not entertain a single name on their list, and because they've annoyed me, I will never use any one of those names ever. I blocked them again, and my brother showed me screenshots of where they were going off. They find it funny, but I know for a fact they had to mute the chat. I feel kind of bad now, and my parents and sisters are calling me out. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are not the jerk here. Your family is so intrusive. Like seriously, your sisters went into your phone to find the list of names you had for your son? Like that is so invasive, it's not even funny. Like they are really determined to make sure you pick a name that they like. And I'm kind of convinced based on the way your sisters have been acting that you could have had any name on that list and it still would not have been good enough for any of those people. And it's not like you didn't make your wishes known. These people were well aware that you did not like any of these stupid names and you didn't want this constant chatter about what you're naming your son. Because you 100% have this right. This is between you and your boyfriend. And the rest of these people are literally just getting in the way. Like they're all interjecting with their weird opinion about what you should and shouldn't do. And they're only doing this to you, by the way, because you're 18 years old and they still feel some kind of ownership over what you can and cannot do. So no, of course you're not the jerk. Your family is being super intrusive, and I know if I was in your shoes, I definitely would have blocked them as well. My entitled sister tries to forcibly transfer my kids to another school, all so that my kids can go to school with her kids. And when I found out about that, I was absolutely livid, resulting in one of the most chaotic episodes my family has ever experienced. Here's what happened. Also, this story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. So to start things out, I recently moved to a new house on the side of town my sister lives on. You see, I transferred my daughter to the same school as my niece and nephew because we lived in the same neighborhood. At the beginning, it was alright, and there was an unspoken agreement between the both of us that she would take them to school while I picked them up from school. But unfortunately, this is where things get a little bit hairy. There was a little bully in the class that bullied my nephew, and the school is investigating the matter, but my sister wanted to transfer her kids and mine together to a new school that just so happens to be very far from my house that I live in. And the thing is, I recently moved and transferred both of my kids to the school that's close, and I can walk there if needed, so it was too much all at once after just moving in. They're just now getting used to the new routine at school, the new people around them, and new friends and teachers. I'm also very close with both of my daughters, and I give them advice when needed, and I definitely don't judge them. them. I live with my mother and I had to use her car to pick up the kids after school because my car was totaled after a fire inside of the engine. So it was my mom's gas in the car and I only agreed to pick up the kids. That is it. So we transferred to different schools, and after already transferring them, she wants me to transfer my daughter to the school that's close to the house that she lives in now, which is the one that she lives in with her new boyfriend and his daughter. And by the way, as a side note, this is after she left her husband of 6 years to be with him after only knowing him for 2.5 months. And it really seems like she's trying to make him the center of her entire life. Well, I told her I wasn't going to uproot what they have now just to satisfy her need of being addicted to the guy that she's with now. She even literally asked me who was going to pick up her kids after school if she's at work. And where the agreement stood is that if they're all at the same school, then I would pick them all up after school while she is at work. Gas prices are very high here, and I had to quit my job to move here since it was too far to drive, and it honestly was just not worth it to do that. Since the school is right down the road, it wouldn't be much trouble, and it's not going to be that much gas. Well, the agreement was broken the moment she wanted to transfer her and my kid to a school 3 miles away from my new house. She even tried to transfer my daughter without my say-so, even going as far as going up there and signing transfer agreements for 3 kids, which really upset me because she has no right to do that. And when she did that, I told her off. But she said to me, "But I thought that you would agree since, you were picking them up, right?" Well, I just blew up on her, telling her that it's not right and that she's not her parent to do such a thing. We were yelling at each other and my mom had to get involved since she agreed to let me use her car, and it was her gas and money being wasted. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand she transferred her kids because of her son, but it doesn't mean that I have to do what she wants just because we live over here now. And the agreement was because of much different reasons. Now, I thought the argument was done, especially after my mom asked for babysitting money for watching her kids after school until she got off work. I mean, I did not agree to watch them after getting them because they are really bad. I know my kids aren't angels, but man, they look like angels compared to them. You see, I could not pick them up one day because my mom had to go to physical therapy, and she definitely knew about it. Because I had to drive her, I picked up my daughters early from their schools. I then texted her and I told her to have her husband come and pick up his kids after school because I wasn't going to pick them up that day because of it, and she said okay. And I think you can see exactly where this is going. She never contacted him, and I had to after texting her because I knew my sister. So I called him and I told him everything from the beginning of the agreement to now, and he understood and he ended up picking them up. Now, the messed up thing was that he didn't even know about them transferring to different schools, and this guy is their biological dad. She's been keeping quiet about it, and it really upsets me because she knows what it's like to not have her biological dad around. After I called him, I told my mom everything and she understood. After the physical therapy was done and I had to get my mom into the car and turned on my phone, I was flooded with messages from her, all because of the phone call to her husband to get his kids. She said stuff like, "How dare you have him pick up my kids?" and other things like that. Well, I just ignored it and I gave my phone to my mom so that she could hang on to it while I drove home. Message after message, my mom got tired of it and ended up calling her on her own phone. I asked her what was so wrong about her husband picking up his kids, and my sister went on a full rant about it. And you can see my mom's face turn from not stressed out to being very stressed out in a matter of seconds. And I had to pull over on the highway just to take the phone from my mom and hang up. I put both of our phones on silent and I tried to calm my mom down since my sister was yelling at her through the phone. I just couldn't deal with her yelling at my mom like that. My mom was almost crying at this point, and my daughters in the back seat are seeing and hearing their grandmother break down in front of them. I told my mom to stay out of it from now on and that it's now just between me and her. We finally got home and my sister was at my house waiting for me. Well, I got out of the car and she started yelling at our mom. I was so livid, I told my girls to go inside the house and stay there. Our mom's face was on the verge of crying again, and that right there is what made me so livid. I stood in front of our mom and I said that if you say one more word, I'm gonna slap you in the face. I explained that I was the one that called him and I was the one that told him everything. So you need to yell at me and not at our mom. Well, she looked at me in the eyes and knew right then and there that I would not put up with disrespecting our mother like that. I told her that I only told my mom the details of the argument between us, and I told her that I did not want her to be a part of it. Well, my sister started yelling at me. She yelled about sisterhood and how I could even do this to her. I gave my mom a little hand motion and I told her to go inside. And right when she got inside, I laid on her everything that built up from the beginning of the school year to now, from her divorce to her cheating, all the way to her bringing a new man into her kids' lives that she has only known for about 2 months. I also yelled at her about her making our mother cry, as well as taking her kids from their biological father and not letting him be involved with anything they do. And I told her that her behavior was absolutely disgusting. Well, with everything I was saying, I did not notice my stepdad getting home from work. He heard everything I told her, and he was livid that our mother was crying about this, and also chimed in and yelled at my sister and told her to leave right now. Well, my sister started crying and then she left. My stepdad then turned to me and asked what this was all about, and I came clean about everything that I was hiding from him, and let me tell you something. The more I told him, the more angry he got. After I was done, he turned and didn't say a single word. He got to the door, and he said he was going to calm our mother down and that I should just take care of my girls. And when I look back on these chain of events, it all started with us moving, and then it led to my sister trying to be the queen of everything. I realized that my sister wanted the whole cake and she wanted to eat it as well. So honestly, am I the jerk for not transferring my daughter to the same school as her kids? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister is crazy. First of all, she tried to transfer your kids to another school without your permission. Like, that is some criminal level behavior that in my opinion is so unacceptable. That alone would have broken any kind of deal I would have made with this sister right from the get-go. And I'm really kind of convinced that the only reason she wanted your kids at her school was all due to the fact that you were picking them up from school. She probably didn't even care about your kids going to school with her kids. I bet you, if anything, this is all just a matter of convenience, and she just wanted you around so you could take care of her kids. But regardless, honestly, your sister sounds incredibly toxic, and there is no way I would ever do any kind of favor for her, especially after acting like this. Like, this 100% would inform my future interactions with my sister, especially with her trying to transfer my kid against my will. Like, that is insane to me. And hopefully you don't have to deal with her in this capacity ever again, because with all things considered, honestly, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my sister and her family to leave my house after my sister started to curse at me? Here's what happened. So my sister, her husband, and my niece come to my house almost every weekend. And this weekend, my daughter had committed to my niece to help her put together a Lego set. They arrived at our house, and when they came in, my daughter was playing a game, and my niece was eating some dinner that they had bought her. And my sister was eating as well, but also was very clearly expressing some anger and frustration with her husband, who was in the family room playing video games with my husband. And well, this was the plan all along, for our husbands to play games together, and my daughter and niece to build Legos. It was super early in the night, maybe about 5:30 or 6 o'clock, so there was a lot of time for everyone to get everything, because they are usually here until about 11 o'clock on a weekend. My niece finishes her food, and my sister was fussing. I actually said to my husband I may leave and run some errands, because I do not like the energy in here. I packed up the food that my niece didn't finish, and I put it in a bag for her. My niece then starts to open up the Legos, and that was totally fine. She is 7 years old and capable of starting this task. We were just letting her do her own thing. Meanwhile, my daughter was still playing her game. My sister says, "Sarah, are you gonna get up? Jane is opening up everything and she's ready." Sarah then responded that she was coming in just a little bit. My sister goes in and starts helping my niece and says, "Well, now you need some scissors. I thought the teen, almost young adult was gonna get up and help you." And when I heard that, this is when I chimed in. I responded by saying, "Sarah doesn't have to hop up just because Jane is done eating and ready. She'll be ready in just a minute." I then put a pair of scissors on the table. After about 3 to 4 minutes, Sarah goes in and starts helping out. Well, my sister is on the phone and grumbling about something else. She then says, "Oh, Sarah, it's okay. I don't want your mom to think I'm forcing you to come and help." I then responded and I say, "Hey, that's really not necessary." And I tried to explain that I was just saying they both could be patient while Sarah was finishing up what she was doing. My sister then cuts me off and says, "Listen, whatever you're upset about, you don't need to take it out on me." She then proceeds to start yelling and cursing at me, telling me that I need to shut up, while also asking me if I really needed to take this up to another level because she's already not in the mood and she's about to go there with me. Well, without without yelling at her, I said to her, "You need to go. It's time for you to go home." She says fine and then says to me, "I didn't want to come over here anyways today." And when she said that, I didn't say anything and I just let them leave. Later, my husband said that my sister and I kind of ruined things for him and my brother-in-law, and that they were not able to hang out like they were expecting to. I said to him, "Okay, but I mean, was I wrong?" Because honestly, I don't think anyone should be able to come into my house and disrupt my peace just because they're in a bad mood. Well, my husband responded by saying, "You don't put family out of your own house." So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, and honestly, your husband wasn't even in there when this all went down. He was having a good time with his brother-in-law, which is fantastic, good for him, but in reality, Jane was being insane, and she had this weird temper that she clearly took out on the original poster. Like, she came into this person's house with a bad attitude as it is, and she clearly was trying to take it out on somebody else. And you know what? Family or not, you do not have to take that for another second. In my opinion, I think the original poster was completely right to ask them to leave, because that kind of behavior of swearing and talking to people like that is unacceptable. I don't care who they are, if you're gonna act like that, then you've gotta go home. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think your husband seriously does not know what he's talking about. Because while he was playing Xbox with his brother-in-law, your sister was acting like a complete jerk. And in my opinion, you were completely justified to kick her out. My fiance's family is very contentious towards me and my fiance. And now, as a result, I'm considering breaking off this engagement because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I recently engaged to my long-term boyfriend, and I am having some doubts about going through with the wedding. He is a very sweet, kind, intelligent guy, and we've had a lovely relationship. For some reason though, I'm finding myself really struggling to envision myself on my wedding day. I've obviously communicated these anxieties and concerns to him, and he's been very understanding and patient, but I find myself going back and forth. He's told me that he appreciates my honesty, and we have solid communication, all things considered. The main reason I've been having some anxiety about our relationship is somehow linked to a challenge I thought we had worked through, but in reality, I think I may simply be in denial. He comes from a very big family that is very tightly knit, and every time I'm with them, I feel as though I'm a guest in a very big tribe. His parents live about 6 hours away via plane, and my fiance moved back in with his parents after graduation and stayed there a few years before joining me, where I was living and studying for law school. Now, none of that is a problem in and of itself, but the first time we introduced our families, I noticed that his parents were not very interested in learning about my family and almost exclusively spoke of themselves. They also have this habit of booking family vacations and holiday plans, all without consulting with my fiance and I, and then expecting us to change our plans and schedules for work, and they are not very understanding if we can only join for portions of the trip. I'm always happy to see them, but after a few days with them, I always end up with somewhat of a bad feeling. I can also tell that his parents aren't particularly thrilled with some of his lifestyle changes that he's adopted, and this is all since we have moved in together. None of which, by the way, I've enforced on him, but it is something that he says he's been inspired and happy to take on. For example, he is now a vegetarian, and his mother always makes snide comments about whether he's feeding himself decently. We recently saw them for a week for a Christmas vacation in Mexico. My fiance and I had plans to take PTO to go see my parents for my dad's 60th birthday, with this all taking place in early January. Now, I only recently learned that he in fact hadn't told his parents about this trip, and they told us that we were invited to join them, as well as pretty much everybody else in the family in Mexico for a week. We thanked them profusely, and I told him that it would be great if it all worked out alongside the trip that we already planned, just so that we could see my family. I also told him that I wasn't comfortable not paying for my place, and I would want to know how much it would cost. So we told them that we were interested in joining, but we would get back to them about the number of days that we could join, only to then learn that they had booked us for the entire time. Now, I'm not complaining, that is very sweet of them, but that made it very hard, and my fiance has to abridge the days he'd be joining me and my family. He was also a little upset about the poor communication, but never asked them about how much the trip had cost in total. He said he assumed that meant we were invited and that our seats were paid for. Well, the trip itself goes smoothly, and we are all staying in the same hotel and on the same floor, and we meet up every day for dinner and sometimes lunch and other activities. It is a big family, and the age range is quite vast. We go on a few day trips with the family, and all in all, I'm under the impression that we're having an enjoyable time. We come home home from the trip, we have some downtime, and then we go to see my parents and everything goes well. And eventually we come home. When I got home, my fiance tells me that it isn't fair that while we were with my parents for 4 days, we spent the time there together and exploring NYC, and that while we were in Mexico with his, we had a lot of downtime and spent a lot of time swimming and reading by the pool with just the two of us. I told him I had no idea he was unhappy about the time repatriation for the trip. He then explained that his parents wished that they had more quality time with him, so I asked if I should simply have not joined in. I mean, we were there for essentially 9 days, including travel days, and had all meals together except for breakfast, and I never declined plans to be with them. He then tells me his mother asked him to come back home after said Mexico vacation, as she was under the impression he wasn't joining my family and I in New York City, while also adding that she missed him terribly. And it was at this point that I got quite upset, as our trip with my parents had been booked a long time prior, and that it wasn't my responsibility to communicate with his mother. The craziest thing is that we had seen them 3 weeks prior when we met up in a halfway city for a weekend, which is the same weekend he ended up proposing to me on, and that even during that weekend, he didn't take the time to have our proposal be intimate with just the two of us, and instead included his family, even though I had told him I wanted this to be a private event. I also can't shake off the feeling that his family simply doesn't love or like me that much, and it's almost like me having my own family and identity bothers them when they're all together. And it's not like I speak only about my family or go against the current in any kind of way. My fiance told me that I embarrass them by bringing up topics that no one would know the knowledge about, and that I'm doing this in some kind of way to humiliate them, which honestly could not be further from the truth. They don't really strike up conversations that much, but I honestly love to talk about different things, and we're talking stuff like art or history or culture or current events. It's never anything political or contentious, and I honestly think his family is upset that I'm different from them in that way. But I found it to be very insulting that he would ask me to tone down being myself simply because his family didn't want to or couldn't converse with me during the numerous meals that we shared together. I'm also worried about if my relationship with my in-laws is fragile before marriage. I don't want to sign up for an entire lifetime of stress. I really don't want my future children to see me and my husband fighting about the in-laws, and instead I would want to be appreciated by the family I marry into. I also only recently found out that my fiance did in fact forward $2,000 to his family after this Christmas vacation, but didn't tell me about it until now. I wish I had known in advance how much money it would cost, and I don't understand why he didn't just ask them as I told him to do originally. Honestly, this all seems so confusing, and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, it really seems like the family, based on what you've described, really doesn't like you. But I think more importantly, it really seems like your fiance is doing nothing about it. Like he is running behind the shadows, almost working as an in-between between you and his family, and it really seems like this is at your detriment. Why is he not coming to your defense more and trying to I don't know, defend your honor or your name or something like that? This guy's even trying to get you to change your personality around his family. What kind of person would do that? Why would you not want to stand next to your fiance and be like, yes, this is who I want to marry? Instead, everything seems so secretive and really weird for some reason. If your fiance truly believes that you are trying to humiliate his family, then that, in my opinion, is not a good fit. That's a massive red flag, and that, in my opinion, shows he would care way more about them than he would ever care about you if anything went down. And I get it, he has a really strong relationship with his whole family, but as a result, he's basically pushing you to the wayside and treating you as some kind of troubled child instead of your fiance. This all seems really weird in my opinion from my perspective, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would be very frustrated with this kind of behavior. Because you guys have been together for over 5 years, and if he is still seriously not comfortable with you being involved in his family, then I seriously just don't see this working out in the long run. My entitled mother-in-law keeps making up lies and rumors about me just to tarnish my reputation with my new extended family. And now, after dealing with this for so many years, my fiance and I are considering canceling our wedding and eloping instead, all because of how obnoxious my mother-in-law truly is being. And at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, here's the thing. My fiance and I are considering canceling our wedding and simply eloping instead, all because of my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law has never tried to have a positive relationship with me ever. She makes sure I'm not included in conversations. She belittles my achievements and talks down to me, and things especially especially escalated when I was planning my fiance's 30th birthday. My mother-in-law fought me on every single detail and accused me of not knowing my fiance at all. For reference, I planned a golf weekend away from him and his family, and I did that because he loves golf. Well, my fiance confronted my mother-in-law and asked why she doesn't like me. And that's when she finally admitted that yes, she doesn't like me. She doesn't like my partner driving me to his family events. She didn't like that it took me a month to find employment when I moved to a different town to be with my fiance. My fiance would receive calls and text messages from my mother-in-law on a daily basis, and if he doesn't respond, she would blame me for that. My fiance told her if she doesn't stop this behavior towards me, he will no longer speak with her. And I even agreed to meet with my mother-in-law to try and smooth things over, just so we could all move forward, but she simply never took me up on it. And for a while, things seemed okay, but fast forward to my fiance's brother's wedding, and trust me, things got really weird. The wedding day arrives, and we were to be at the venue at 4:00 p.m. Well, 5 minutes to 2 p.m., my fiance receives a phone call from my mother-in-law saying that the family photo shoot is in 5 minutes. And here's the thing, we had not been told of a family photo shoot at all. My mother-in-law demands that we arrive at 2 o'clock for just that. So we frantically get ready, and we arrive at the house where the wedding is taking place. And you know what? There was never even a photo shoot planned. My mother-in-law comes out in her pajamas and tries to hand me suit shirts that she wanted me to iron, but I simply refused. She ended up snapping at me, asking where my son is. But I explained that my son was never coming as he's at the hotel and he's staying there. Well, my mother-in-law continues stating that everyone thought that he would be there, but I responded that he was never coming and that the RSVP was just for me and my fiance. And here's the thing, she was told multiple times that my son was not going to be there. Fast forward and the ceremony is over, and I started to have guests come up to me asking where my son is. Now, I don't even know these people by name, but I just tell them that he's at the hotel. And when I said that, their looks of disgust completely threw me off. I eventually realized that my new friends had stopped talking to me, and I realized that these people were being told my son was at the hotel, but they were not told that he is old enough to be there by himself. He is a teenager after all. And very quickly, the wedding was a place of ridicule and disgust all towards me. Fast forward to another incident, and on Christmas Day at my mother-in-law's house, her family scurried away from me on arrival, refusing to hug me or even greet me. One man, whom I met maybe about 2 years ago, aggressively accused me of leaving my son alone on Christmas Day, even though my son was at his father's place this year. The rumor has continued, and now not only does my mother-in-law hate me, but so does her entire family. I made up an excuse to announce the fact that my son was a teenager who had just finished his first year of high school at the top of his class. And it's right about then everybody's jaw dropped. None of them had a single clue that he was a teenager. And after I did that, my mother-in-law hurried out the room. Well, now my fiance wants to cancel the wedding and just simply elope, all because of his mother. My fiance is demanding that I speak with my mother-in-law one last time in order for him to finally cut her off. So honestly, would we be jerks if we cancel our wedding because of this? What should we do? Wow, your mother-in-law is absolutely trying to ruin your life and your wedding. Like, this literally just doesn't make any sense to me. She treats you like garbage for literally no reason. She blames all these supposed problems on you. And worst of all, she is lying about you just to hurt your reputation. Like, just imagine trying to plan a wedding with this lady. She's clearly trying to hurt your reputation and make your life a living nightmare, despite the fact that you and your fiance are on the same page. So honestly, I would not want to plan a wedding with this woman. I would not want her anywhere near my wedding, because I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, she would probably try everything that she could just to ruin the experience. So honestly, I don't think anybody would blame you for just canceling your wedding and eloping instead, because your mother-in-law sounds insane, and there's no way I would ever want to put up with that if I was in your shoes. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled father is constantly trying to start arguments with me, all because my fiance is from South Korea, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my fiance is currently in South Korea while I'm living in New York. We're doing long distance for a bit, and it's been very hard on us to be apart, but I know that it won't last. Luckily for us, it will be a year max of being apart, so it is not a very long time. I have spent some time in South Korea, and I really love it there. I'm going back in August for the month and I'm very excited. Of course, whenever I get back to South Korea, my parents don't hold back from expressing their concerns about the tensions between North and South Korea. My fiance's dad is the top military official of South Korea who has recently retired, so I trust him, my future father-in-law, rather than what I see in the media. I have talked to my future father-in-law when I was in South Korea about this very same subject, and he said he can't figure out why so many people in the United States are afraid of Kim Jong-un. He thinks the man is a big joke. My parents always go as far as to say that people in South Korea are living with bags over their heads and are completely blind to the problems with North Korea. I end up telling my parents to acknowledge the issues that we have in the US first, rather than talking poorly about South Korea. The other day, my dad sent in the family group chat an article about tensions between North and South Korea. I said in the chat, please refrain from sending me anything having to do with North and South Korea. Well, tonight during dinner, my dad pulled up an article about North and South Korea, and he showed it to me while laughing and smiling. Well, let's just say I finally blew up on him. I told him that I asked him to refrain from showing me this type of stuff, and that's when he said that I'm just as ignorant as everybody else in South Korea. I then raised my voice, and I said that I work in a school, so I have a higher chance of something horrible happening to me there, and that I have felt safe every single time I've been to South Korea. My dad told me he's sick of hearing how amazing South Korea is, and that I'm too blinded by how dangerous it really is there. I ended up yelling some more, and then I just left. Now, here's the thing. I'm not proud of raising my voice, but I'm so upset with my dad with the way he smiled and laughed, like he was taking pride in bringing this up again. Long distance is already hard enough, and I don't want to be more scared of something happening to my fiance. A lot of Koreans I know don't have any fear regarding North Korea, and I tried to express that to my parents, but they completely put it down and tell me that they are delusional and they are blinded to the real problems. I'm honestly so upset, and I seriously don't know what to do. In my opinion, I think your parents are completely out of line. Your dad is a massive jerk, and you are completely right. He's trying to fearmonger you instead of, I don't know, focusing on issues in our own country, because trust me, here in America, we've got plenty of problems we gotta fix first. And it really seems like he's only bringing this up to try and dissuade you from getting married to this guy. Like, that is seriously not okay, and that is incredibly toxic. And personally, I think you have it right. You're trusting someone from South Korea who has a much clearer view of what's happening on that side of the planet. Like, if there's anybody who's delusional and doesn't know what they're talking about, it's your dad. He doesn't live there. He literally doesn't understand any of the nuance of living in South Korea, and he is completely out of line to assume that South Koreans are delusional to what's happening, because I'm pretty sure they're the most qualified to understand exactly what's happening. Also, it really seems like he's only doing this to try and like push your buttons. Like, your reaction is all he wants. He just wants you to get upset. So of course he's gonna bring up all these articles that are incredibly scary just to try and not only mess with you, but also prevent you from going to South Korea. And that is honestly so unacceptable. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be putting him on an information diet like right away. This guy is not gonna know anything about what I'm actively doing, and since this guy seriously can't be supportive in any kind of way, then this is the result that he's gonna have to live with. Am I the jerk for refusing to be adopted by my stepmother just to make the family look better in the eyes of the extended family? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my dad got married to Eve last year. Eve is not her real name, but she does have 2 kids. Her son is 4 now, and her daughter is 2. There's a lot of deep stuff in Eve's background and in the kids with their paternal side of the family, but they really had nobody other than Eve until my dad and Eve met. Once they got married, my dad adopted them, and then my dad's relatives didn't want the kids to be treated the same as the rest of the grandkids, and told my dad they would never mean as much to them as the rest of the biological family would. So he told them to get lost, and he cut ties with them. When all 3 sides were basically not in the picture, my dad asked my mom's family if they would embrace my step-siblings as family and treat them the way they would with me, because they were now siblings, and that my family and I love them, so it was important to him to see them being embraced by the family. Well, my family actually asked me if what my dad said was true, and I told them that it was not. I said I hardly even knew the kids, let alone love them. So my family told my dad they would never see my step-siblings as their grandkids. I should also make it clear that my dad and maternal family did not remain close or like family after my mom passed away. I still saw my family, but dad was never involved, and he would go to his own family when I was with mine. I never liked my dad's family, so so it was never a huge deal to me to not see them, and it's not a huge deal to not have them around at all. They were always really annoying about how girly I am, and they could never believe I would want to have a manly job when I graduate. Eve was pretty depressed when she realized that she didn't make her kids' family all that much bigger, and that they had been rejected even more. So my dad decided that we would be the tightest unit, and we would all just choose each other, just so they would know that they were chosen and loved, despite all the rejection that they just faced. And that's when my dad decided that for this to work, I should let Eve adopt me. And let me just tell you something, I refused without hearing anything else. And I told him that Eve will never adopt me, and that I don't care how much of a nice story it paints for her kids, because I am not doing that for them. He told me that they are little, and Eve said it would mean so much to them. Dad told me that part of being a big sibling is putting the younger siblings first, but I told them the kids were never going to be my priority, and I would never go out of my way for them like that. Dad offered a compromise then of me writing and signing a contract saying that I would always be their big brother, and I was so lucky to choose two awesome siblings, which I said no to as well. Then the adoption stuff was pushed even more. Eve tried telling me that I would still be able to call her Eve most of the time, but just to call her mom in front of her kids. Dad then said I was being selfish for refusing to do this, and reiterated that the kids should be our priority. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I really think your dad and Eve are being really obnoxious here. Like, you have made it very clear that you're not interested in being adopted, and yet these people are trying to push it on you just so they can look good. And it doesn't matter what they're trying to say, honestly, I really think they're only doing this for appearance. They want to make it look like everybody in the family's on board, and that the whole family is just happy and really enjoying their time together. And obviously that's a lie. Obviously there's a lot of contention going on, because both of the families have turned their backs on your step-siblings and your stepmom. But with all things considered and all of that stuff that really is outside of your control, in my opinion, I think it's awful that they would try to force you to get adopted by Eve. That is incredibly unacceptable, and I really don't think you deserve that in the slightest. Today, I messed up by reading Facebook messages from my ex-girlfriend of 10 years ago. And even though I have a wife, a kid, and a very successful career, I feel very depressed, and I now really regret looking at all those messages. Here's what happened. Okay, so today, out of boredom, I logged into Facebook for the first time in many years. I ended up going to my Facebook messages and seeing a bunch of old messages. Out of curiosity, I scrolled down to see how far back I could go, and it was super interesting to me. It was like a time capsule. Well, eventually though, I stumbled upon messages between me and my ex-girlfriend. As a bit of background, she was the one that got away. We were high school sweethearts that continued dating through college, and we dated for nearly 5 years. We were head over heels in love with each other. Her family loved me, and my family loved her. This may sound cliche, but I knew from the day I met her that I wanted to marry this girl. She was sweet and kind, incredibly beautiful and smart and very thoughtful. She was also honest, funny, and we just got along so well together. It's like we really were made for each other. Well, we ended up going to different colleges, and we were both each other's first, and she clearly got a lot of attention from other guys, and she started to think if I was really going to be her first and last. And as a result, she wanted to see what else is out there for her. And in hindsight, I don't blame her, and I'm not mad at her for it. We met at a young age, and she had every right to do this. Anyways, it took me many years to get to a point where I wasn't sad over the breakup. We broke up in 2013, and 2017 was when I was at a point where I could think about our relationship, and it didn't make me sad. Well, that is until today. Now, I still think about our relationship very frequently, and I don't think I will ever completely get over this relationship, but I still can't let that put a pause on my life. I needed to accept that it was over, accept that I may never fully heal from it, and just move on with my life. So I did, and I'm at a point where I'm now happy and I no longer feel sad thinking about the relationship. But it all came tumbling down after I read those messages. She is married with a child, and I am married with a child. I have a successful career, a house, and a great relationship with my wife. I love her and my son, I really do. But reading those messages reminded me of how different my love for my high school sweetheart really was. I will never experience that sort of love ever again. Just her existence in my life made me feel so fulfilled, like nothing else mattered. Reading those messages reminded me of how much we loved each other and what that all felt like. It made me miss those days that I'll never ever be able to get back. So honestly, the moral of this story is that you don't want to read old Facebook messages if you're not ready to relive the past. Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. You read up on these old messages and you're looking back on your life and you're like, man, I wish I still had that in some kind of way. And I can completely understand that. And I know you're not like implying that you're going to cheat on your wife or anything like that. Obviously, and I think you know this, all that is better in the past and you should leave it in the past and not pursue it or anything like that. But also, it's important to know that you're in a much better place now. You have a wife and a kid and a really successful job. And sure, you don't really feel that love that you used to have when you were a kid, but at least you can look forward and like focus on the people that you do have in your life. So hopefully you don't look through any more messages because I think this is only going to cause more problems. And I think you're better off just looking forward and trying to make the best of the future. I discovered that my partner lied to me about his parents being dead, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm not even sure where to begin with this because there are so many moving parts to this, so please just bear with me. I'm a 24-year-old female and I met my partner who's 24 years old in February last year in a college class. We instantly connected, and one of the main things we connected on was my work in child welfare. He had told me that he spent a lot of time in foster care as his mother and father both passed away when he was a baby, and it was one of the first things we deeply talked about together. Over the months, we never really established we were in a relationship, but now we're at a point where we call each other our partner and we are seeing each other exclusively. However, it has always felt like something was holding us back from becoming official, and I think it's because he lied to me about his family being dead. Basically, a few months into us going out, I started to notice some gaps in things that he would tell me, such as names of family members, details about his childhood, etc. And he was very, very weird with social media. Well, one day I went to look him up on Facebook and I simply could not find his profile. This was a bit odd, as I remember I looked him up a while back and I was able to find him. So I had my friends look him up and they found him no problem. We believe he blocked me because on his page and tagged post, he was interacting with people who have the same last name as him and had posted about him being the younger brother, and one woman posted how she was a proud mother of him. Now, this would check out if he had a foster family, but he asserted time and again that he never had a foster family and still has his biological father's last name. Now, this is where things get really weird. He told me that his middle name was the first name of his dad, and that he looked exactly like his dad when he was younger. Well, when we went on Facebook, we found a guy with his middle name as his first name, as well as the same last name, and this guy looked exactly like my partner and had pictures of him on his page. After some more searching, we found public records that showed that he lived with this older guy and older woman who we are now certain are his parents. The worst part of this is that we were in the car one day and his phone connected to Bluetooth and he had an incoming call with the screen name of Dad. Now, I pretended that I had not seen it because I just froze in confusion, and since then I've been stuck with what to do. Now, there is a lot more we found, but the main thing here is that I found a lot that shows he lied to me about these really huge things. I tried easing the waters recently and asked why I couldn't find him on Facebook, and he made a comment along the lines of saying, "What's really on my social media? I am nervous of finding you." And then he would make another comment the next day where he would say, "What did you find online when you looked me up?" And I just really don't know what to do here. I don't know how to approach this with him or if I even should. I am starting to think that I love this person even despite this lie, and it's all just been eating me up inside. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, this guy lied to you and said that his parents are dead, but now that you have found out the truth, you still love this guy? Seriously, what in the world is going on here? If I had a significant other who lied to me straight up and said, "Yeah, my family's dead," only to then find out that they lied about that fact about them, I would be in such a state of shock, I don't even know what I would do besides break up with them. Like, seriously, in my opinion, this is a huge red flag. No one just lies about their parents dying without some kind of like weird motive. Unless he's part of witness protection or secretly a part of the CIA or something like that. Like, there's no real excusable reason why this guy would lie and be like, "Yeah, my parents are dead." Like, that's crazy to me. I can't be the only one who thinks that, right? Like, this behavior is just really creepy in my opinion. And I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever give him the time of day. Because in my opinion, it really seems like this guy concocted this weird story about being an orphan just so he could gather sympathy from you based on your work. Like, he literally lied to you just so you would fall in love with him. And it also makes me wonder, like, what else has this guy lied about? Are there other hobbies that you supposedly have in common that you've never seen him participate in, yet he would swear that he loves all these other things that you like as well? Like, this guy sounds like a massive con artist, and I can't imagine anyone sticking with him. So hopefully you can figure this out, because in my opinion, this is incredibly incredibly creepy, and there is literally no good excuse for someone to lie about their parents being dead. My spoiled, entitled sister demands that I pay for her wedding, including a $10,000 dress that she absolutely can't live without. But once I told her no and that I cannot afford that, she and the rest of my extended family have turned their backs on me, calling me selfish and unsupportive, and also calling me a jerk for not paying for the entire wedding. And at this point, I'm starting to feel guilty and incredibly lonely, as my entire family has now cut me off. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 28-year-old female, and I have a younger sister who's 25, and she is getting married next month. She has always been spoiled by our parents and expects everyone to cater to her whims. She is also very obsessed with having a lavish wedding, even though she and her fiance are not very well off. She asked me to be her maid of honor, which I agreed to, even though I don't really like her fiance. He is a rude and lazy guy who doesn't treat her very well, but she thinks that he is the love of her life. I tried to be supportive and help her with the wedding planning, but she was very demanding and unreasonable. She wanted me to do everything for her, from booking the venue to sending the invitations to choosing the flowers. She also expected me to pay for half of the expenses, which I refused to do. I told her that I would only pay for my own dress and accessories, and that she and her fiance should cover the rest. Well, when I said that, she was very angry with me and said that I was being selfish and unsupportive. She said that I owed her for being her sister and that I should help her have her dream wedding. She also said that she had already picked out a wedding dress that cost about $10,000 and that I should be the one to pay for it since she couldn't afford it. She actually said that it was the least I could do since I had a better job and more savings than her. Honestly, when she said this, I was shocked and appalled by her request. I told her that there was no way I was going to pay for her wedding dress or anything for that matter. I told her that she was being ridiculous and entitled and that she should live within her means. I also told her that her wedding dress was way too expensive and that she should look for something more affordable and practical. Well, she threw a tantrum and called me a horrible sister. She said that I was ruining her wedding and that she hated me. She then hung up on me and blocked me on all social media. She also told our parents and the rest of the family what happened, and unfortunately, they have all sided with her. They said that I was being stingy and mean, and that I should apologize to her and just pay for the dress. They said that it was my duty as her sister and maid of honor, and that I should make her happy on her special day. But you know what? I refused to do so. And now I'm being shunned by my entire family. They have all uninvited me from the wedding, while also cutting off all contact with me. They said that I am no longer welcome in their lives, and that they hope I regret my decision. Honestly, I don't think I did anything wrong, but I am starting to feel guilty and very alone. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I cannot believe that the extended family sided with your sister, because that is insane to me. First off, you are definitely not the jerk here. Your sister is insane for expecting you to pay for her wedding, let alone a $10,000 wedding dress. Like seriously, $10,000 for a wedding dress she's gonna wear once. Like, I don't know about you, but I am definitely not made of money where I can drop that at a moment's notice. So for anybody, let alone a sibling, to expect that from one of their older siblings, all under the guise of, oh, come on, you gotta make me happy. That is insane to me, and there's no way that's reasonable. Like, why is that falling squarely on your shoulders? Like, it seems pretty convenient that the rest of the family is siding with your sister, because that screams to me that they don't want to pay for that stupid dress either. They are all basically ganging up on you to try and force your hand so that you're the one that has to pay for the dress, because they know for a fact they can't handle that dress for a second. And if this really is bothering you that much, you just need to remember that aspect of all of this, because if you're not willing to pay for it, I can guarantee you they're not going to pay for it either. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would not give in to their weird guilt tripping for a second, because you know for a fact that none of them want to pay for that stupid dress, and they're only pressuring you in this way so that you can eventually cave and then give them some money. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting my friend's boyfriend at my small wedding weekend? Because right now, I don't think my friend is totally getting it, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I'm going to have a phone call tonight with my friend to tell her that I don't want her boyfriend coming to my micro wedding. We were going to elope originally, but we do have some aging family members that we would really like to have there, as it would be meaningful. So we changed our plans and ended up making a very small list of our nearest and and dearest. For context, last spring, I moved across the ocean to be with my fiance. We are having a very small micro-style wedding, and my friend was asking about it and sounded like she really wanted to attend. I then explained that there are no plus ones, meaning that you can't bring anybody with you, but if she could come along, that would be lovely. Well, apparently her boyfriend, who I've met maybe 2 times, has a thing about being left out, and she told me that. I asked her to just explain to him that no one gets a plus one, and at one point, I must have said something about money and why we were keeping it so small, and my friend really clung to that idea. A few days after she and I talked, I get the following text message. She said to me, "We both want to be there for you and your fiance at your wedding, and we've already set aside a budget for the year. We'll make the timeline work with our stuff. My boyfriend also says don't worry about the cost for after party expenses because you're so important to me and it's important that we're there for this big life event. We love you both so much and I'm already looking at tickets and a train and lodging. Send me more details as you get them and we're definitely going to be there." Well, when I saw this, I was panicking. I then said to her, "Wait, don't book anything yet. We haven't booked anything yet, but I will keep you updated." I then asked her straight up, "Did you talk to him about what I told you? It's people that we only know really well. Not that I don't want to get to know him, but it is a very small wedding with just a few of our closest people. Honestly, my heart is racing right now." Well, maybe I should have said something like, "No, you misunderstood. He is not welcome for the after parties or the weekend, as it's only going to be people that myself and my fiance are close to." But unfortunately, that's not what I said. My friend responded by saying that she won't book anything yet, and that they were just looking for price estimations. She then said that he would just sit out of the ceremony or the reception if that's the concern, and that it's more about traveling and being together. She said that he's been to weddings where his partners weren't invited, and he totally gets it, while also stating that they're gonna pay for themselves, and they don't mind if it's standing room only. She then closed out by saying that they want to be there to celebrate me and my fiance and our love. Well, I didn't respond for over a week, and then I texted her and said, "Can we schedule a phone call to talk about my wedding? I think I need to clarify some things." Now, here's the thing. The ceremony and the photos afterwards and the meal afterwards, it's all a special time for me, and I only want people that I'm close to for this event in my life. So honestly, am I the jerk for not wanting this boyfriend to show up? Because I'm going to be calling my friend to make sure that she understands what's actually happening, and at this point, I'm not sure how it's going to go down. No, you're definitely not the jerk. You made it very clear that there are no plus ones. You only want people there that you know and you're comfortable with, and it's not about the money. Like, I see what you mean when you referenced that earlier. Your friend is using this as some weird excuse just so she can bring along her boyfriend, but she is completely missing the part where you're like, wait, no, I don't want anyone besides you. No one's allowed to bring a guest of any kind. I mean, this is being referred to as a micro wedding. How can she not understand that you don't want a lot of people there that you don't know? So honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you are completely justified telling her exactly how it is, because I know if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. My entitled mother doesn't respect my boundaries or conversations about them, and after I found out that she went through my room and reorganized everything without my permission, I can honestly say that I've hit my tipping point, and right now I simply don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of context, I'm a 20-year-old female and I'm a nurse, and I also live with my family. My mother has issues respecting boundaries and really pushed me to my limits yesterday. She loves a good, deep spring clean and reorganizing everybody's rooms, even if we don't agree with their opinions or suggestions. She doesn't communicate and she just does as she pleases. Now, I'm starting a new job and I had a full day of orientation yesterday. My room was clean and had been reorganized by me not even a week ago. So after I left, she goes and reorganizes my room, going through all of my personal items, through my wardrobe, and even going as far as throwing away sentimental things. I am very particular about the way my things are set up, and I hate when people go through my things and judge them. I come home and as I'm walking in, she tells me not to get mad. I said, don't give me a reason to get mad, and I won't. And then she tells me that she rearranged my room and my closet. I walk into the mess of my stuff being scattered and none of it where it was placed. So I got mad. But she said to me, isn't it better for space? I said she had no right to go through my things and to throw away things. I went on to say that this is a huge breach of my privacy and it's disrespecting my boundaries. She then starts to try and guilt trip me and gaslight me by sighing and then walking away to cry, and then she was waiting for me to apologize for getting mad. She then attempted an apology after dinner, which sounded so forced and unapologetic in every way, shape, and form, but I just ignored ignored it because I did not see it as genuine. I went out with my friends for a couple of hours after that, and when I came back home, she was sitting on the couch crying at the TV. She apologized and said, "Don't hold this against me." I then asked her if she was actually sorry or whatever it was, just so I wouldn't resent her for it. But after I said that, she just started crying again. Well, today has been radio silence, except for a couple of snide remarks saying that she's apologized so many times, which simply isn't the case at all. And you know what? Honestly, I just can't take this anymore, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I have to agree with the original poster here. Their one space in the house was completely violated by their mom going in there without permission. Like, that's what this is really about. She went in there and moved everything around and reorganized your room, even though you literally cleaned and reorganized your room not even a week ago. Like, she had to have known that you did that already, right? Because if she didn't, then obviously she's completely blind and deaf. But even worse, if she did know that you reorganized your entire room, then she did that on purpose just to go through your stuff. And that, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic and so uncalled for. Now, I don't know if there's an opportunity for you to put a lock on your door or anything like that, but I would definitely invest in some kind of like locking mechanism to keep your stuff safe. Even if that means literally putting your personal and sentimental items in like a physical safe of some kind, because what you're describing right now is a massive breach of trust. And if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be angry as well. Today, I messed up by trying to get into the wrong car, and as a result, I ended up scaring some poor college student. Here's what happened. So I want to start off with some needed backstory. I am a college student who has their own apartment in this basically college-only urbanization. Due to certain circumstances, my somewhat older uncles fell ill recently, and luckily they live in the same urbanization, being approximately an 8-minute walk away from my apartment. Unfortunately, my uncle got hospitalized a few days ago by being hard-headed, and my aunt, following my husband's example, refused to listen to the doctor's orders and needed to be hospitalized yesterday. They are doing better at the moment, but that's not the main issue at hand. You see, both of them live with my uncle's mom, who is my grandmother. I stayed with my grandmother all day yesterday after my aunt was hospitalized, but one of my cousins, thinking and understanding that college starts tomorrow and that I've got preparations to do, she insisted to take our grandmother with her to her place so I can go back to my apartment and finish my things up, while also accommodating the fact that my grandmother, who hasn't lived alone for several years now, doesn't have to stay the night alone. Now, as anybody that's tried to move an elderly person from one place to another for an indefinite amount of time, you will know that this is not exactly the easiest thing to do. After some back and forth of solid conversation and coercion attempts, we settled on the plan that my grandmother would go with my cousin to her house for the night, but we'll come back the next day since my cousin has to pass by the house to go to her job anyways, and either myself or one of my neighbors, who is basically family at this point, would basically stay with my grandmother until my cousin left work and would then pick her up again, and this pattern would continue on until either my uncle or my aunt would be better enough to leave the hospital and continue their regular days at the house. Well, fast forward, and today was the first day of our plan. As usual, I wake up and do my regular morning routine, and after finishing up, I texted my cousin to check how things are and if everything is on schedule. But here's the thing, she did not answer the phone. Now, knowing how both my grandmother and my cousin can be, I figured that she was rushing things and unable to answer a text message, so I decided to give her a call instead. But even then, nobody answered the phone. This meant one of two things. Either she was talking with someone from her work, or her kid was being distracting with the phone from all the rushing chaos. And I would imagine on the first day of her morning routine, there would definitely be a lot of chaos. So I decide to wait and wait right up until it's about time that they should be getting near my place. So, not really having much of a choice, I start walking over to the house so I can take over and spend my day with grandma before I have to start taking shifts with one of the neighbors after starting college tomorrow. Now, as I'm getting there, I notice what I thought at the time was my cousin's van parked and running in front of the house. But if you remember, this is basically an urbanization where almost all the houses are actually hostels for college students. And under normal circumstances, the only people that are in that spot are either one of my cousins or me when I bring some stuff in my own car. The neighbors are either hostel owners or college students that both respect everybody's parking space, and we haven't ever really had any issues in that regard. Getting closer to the house, I notice that the gate is actually locked, and who I believe to be my cousin inside of her van, talking to somebody who I assume to be her work through the van's Bluetooth speaker. And this is the kind where it's like stupidly loud. Now, Now, knowing that I don't have a key, I call out to my grandmother to tell her that my cousin locked the gate. But the issue is that my grandmother is always in one of two places in the house. She's either in her room or on the very back of the house where she will never hear me, or she's in the family room watching TV. Well, since the family room is closer to the front entrance, and she definitely didn't hear me there, I thought that she definitely had to be in her room. Not wanting to interrupt who I believe to be my cousin, who is still at this time in the van and talking to someone who I presumed was her work, I waved at her and I pointed at the locked gate, while making a key gesture for her to catch on. Now, at this point, it's a good time to say my cousin's van has this thing where if the sun hits the windows at a certain way, from the outside of the car, you cannot see anything above a person's chest. So at this point, even though I'm a couple of feet away from the van, I don't actually see the face of the person in the driver's seat. I only see a female outline wearing a uniform and speaking on the phone while also moving her hands around. So I continue waiting next to the car. Then I hear the audible clicks of the locks when you lock and unlock a car from the inside, and her moving her hands towards the passenger seat, the one seat that is in front of me. Meanwhile, I was still unaware that this is in fact not my cousin, who is having a seemingly very important conversation about her work. I assume this was her way of saying, just grab the keys, I can't get them for you right now. So I did what anybody would do, and I tried to open the door. But as I put my hands on the handle and pulled it, I realized that it was locked. And that's when I see her face. And you know what? I have no idea who this girl was, and she has no idea who I am. The problem is that my dumb brain didn't catch up with what my eyes were looking at, and for a good 2 seconds with my hand still on the handle, I look at this girl the same way you stare at your computer when it's loading. After what seemed like an eternity, I immediately backed away from the car, confirmed my surroundings, and then I call my cousin, who once again doesn't answer her phone. So I end up calling cousin number 2, who's the sister of the cousin, and that's when she tells me that my other cousin didn't have work today, so it was unlikely that grandma was going to go back to my aunt's house today, and that she'll let me know if anything changes. But she was as surprised as me that I wasn't told about this. Well, immediately I thank her and I hang up after telling her to tell my uncles that I said hi, and proceeded to turn around and face the van, which is still there next to me, with the Bluetooth speaker phone call still running, mind you, and the shocked college freshman who was apparently moving in, because as mentioned before, I know all the neighbors around there, and I don't know who this lady is for a second. Keep in mind, I'm a fairly big guy coming in at about 6 foot and 200 pounds or something like that, so there's no way this looks good to me. I then proceed to awkwardly wave and say at the top of my lungs, I am so sorry, I confused you with someone else, while also turning around and speed walking my way back to my apartment without waiting or noticing for any type of reaction. And honestly, I now feel like an idiot, and next time I go towards my cousin's car, I'm gonna make sure that it's actually her. Wow, that's an awful scenario, because seriously, I can see that happening. People get mixed up, they see a car that looks like a car they think they know, and then they try to get into said car and it's all just a mess. So hopefully that doesn't happen again, and hopefully things work out with your family, because what you described absolutely sounds like a mess, and I don't think this is a mistake that you want to make twice. Am I the jerk for loving my girlfriend too much in public? Because as a result, my stepbrother's girlfriend has just broken up with him, and he is now blaming it all on me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have been dating for about 2 years, and words can't describe how much I love her. She's awesome every single day, and I honestly feel lucky that she decided to be with me, and the best part is that she told me she feels the same. We're even talking about moving in together, and I'm in a really good place right now. Well, my dad, my stepmom, my stepbrother and his girlfriend and stepsisters were all going to the mall today, and I decided to invite my girlfriend, but she said that she was busy. But you know what? She wasn't actually busy. She wanted to surprise me and coordinated this with my older stepsister. So my stepsister told me to turn around, and I saw her walking over. I ran over, pulled her into a hug, and I kissed her, and I was so happy. It wasn't like I was in a sour mood and moping around all day. I was just happier because my girlfriend was with me. I had my arms around her pretty much the whole time that we were there. Later, in the parking lot, my stepbrother's girlfriend pulled him aside. It seemed like they were arguing, and she ended up walking away afterwards. My stepbrother walked up to me and asked if I was happy. I asked what he meant, and according to him, I made his girlfriend dump him. Apparently, she said that she wanted someone to love her the way I loved my girlfriend, and he was convinced I purposefully acted in such a way so that they would break up right then and there. Everyone else heard what was going on and came over, and my stepbrother explained his side, which was pretty pretty much him just saying that my girlfriend and I made his girlfriend dump him. And before we could defend ourselves, my stepmother started ranting at us. My dad stuck up for us, and pretty soon everyone was arguing. My girlfriend and I left, and then we went back to her place. Well, I just got a long text from my stepmom that's basically just her saying that I should stop acting so obsessed with my girlfriend and that I was a major jerk for ruining my stepbrother's relationship. Now, I can't speak to how his relationship was before I introduced them to my girlfriend, but all I know is that they've been dating for 4 years, and I haven't really been around them that much. I was only acting how I normally act with my girlfriend because I love her so much, and I think I should be allowed to hug her in public. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You're not the jerk. It sounds like your stepbrother is an awful boyfriend, and it sounds like your stepmom is completely delusional. Like seriously, why would you be the problem in that guy's relationship? You didn't plan them breaking up. This was probably in the works for years in the making. Like, it is literally insane for you to be blamed for that relationship falling apart because you absolutely had nothing to do with it, and anyone who blames that on you is seriously out of their mind. An entitled Karen puts her hands on my son and steals a medication that he was holding that he desperately needed to avoid going to the hospital, with this entitled Karen claiming that she needs this medication more than my son because she doesn't believe that he's actually sick. And I've honestly never been more angry and furious with anybody in my life. Here's what happened. So a couple of weeks ago, my 4-year-old son was sick. He had a bad stomach flu that he simply couldn't shake. Since he didn't get better after 5 days and he barely responded to questions, I ended up calling the doctor's office. They were worried, so they wanted to see him. So we went off to the doctor's office, and we have a lovely doctor who told me that my son needed oral rehydration salts and that when he was uncomfortable, he could have a suppository or other painkillers for children. Since I did not have anyone at the moment who could take care of my son, I brought him with me to the nearest pharmacy for those two things. I put my son in a cart with a pillow underneath him just so he could be a little bit more comfortable. The oral rehydration salts were very easily found. I mean, not many people needed it, especially in the winter. Children's suppositories were a lot harder to find though, but thankfully I found the last pack at the back of the shelves. My son wanted to hold the medicine, so I thought to myself, sure little man, here you go, but don't do anything with it. Since I was eager to get home, I hurried to the checkout. As I was standing in line, I was looking at some other things for sick kids that they had behind the counter, thinking if I could use any of this. I looked back at my son to see how he was feeling, as he had just made a sound. But when I turned to look at him, I see a hand grabbing my son's hand with a pack of suppositories. I then look at the fool who had the nerve to do such a thing, and that's right when I ran into the entitled mother of this story. My son immediately starts crying and screaming. Before I could react, she wrenches the pack from my son. She starts screaming that she has a sick kid at home and that she needs it more than my son. I tell her that my son is sick as well and that we had it first. Then this poor excuse of a living being had the audacity to say that I was lying. I mean, my son had lost several pounds in less than a week because he was so sick and he looked really bad. He even felt lighter than my daughter, and she is 2 years younger than her big brother. I was sick with worry. My son needed that medication in his system, and he needed to shake this stupid stomach flu. Otherwise, a little stay in the hospital during Christmas became a not so fun but real option. Our doctor was very adamant that he needed to get this medicine and fluids to prevent this. My son was crying whilst climbing out of the cart. While I picked him up and held him, I raised my voice and told this piece of garbage that I didn't care if she thought I was lying. I remained calm, but I let her have it. I had lost every ounce of patience that I normally have. The increased worry of the past few days, the lack of sleep as he needed his mom so much, even at night, was wearing me down. I saw red and I can't remember everything. People who were in the pharmacy and also at the cash registers absolutely heard me. I asked this entitled Karen what kind of piece of trash would take something out of a kid's hand, and a sick child no less. I stated that my son was sick and this was not even a point of discussion. I said that it was visible. She then tried backing away, but I straight up followed her, and every time she opened her mouth, I talked over her. Eventually, the manager came to me and told her to return what she had taken. Now, this entitled Karen didn't give them to me right away, but when she did, she threw the suppositories on the floor and then left. I was shaking while I paid for what I had. The manager ended up sitting me down and gave me some water. They talked to me, calmed me down, and when I calmed down enough, I went home where I continued taking care of my son. And thankfully, my son recovered without needing to go to the hospital. Wow, I can't imagine imagine someone actually taking some medicine out of a kid's hand inside of your basket. Like seriously, what kind of entitled monster would have done that? Like you got to that pack of medication first. It's not like you stole it or did anything sketchy to try and grab it. You literally had it first and there's no excuses. Not to mention that this entitled Karen put her hands on your son. Like I don't think I would have the self-control to prevent myself from getting physical with this person, especially if I witnessed that firsthand. So you clearly have a lot more self-control than I do, because that would have been really bad if I was in that situation. That's just me personally. But you know what? Good for you for standing up for yourself and not allowing this Karen to push you around like that. Your son was sick and you were trying to avoid the hospital, and this entitled Karen had no right to physically touch your son or even steal that medication in the first place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend ruined my plans to go on a double date with my friend and his girlfriend, spending all of her money and coming to me completely broke in preparation for our double date. And now, as a result, she's demanding that I pay for her entire night on top of mine. But I simply refused that offer, and now she's calling me a jerk for not accommodating her. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my girlfriend and I had made plans this weekend to go on a double date with my friend and his girlfriend. We have had this weekend planned for a while, and I've paid for our travel costs and for the hotel room for the night. Last weekend, my girlfriend had plans to go out with colleagues for a meal and drinks. She said that she would not be out too late and would only be having a couple of drinks after the meal. Well, she ended up staying out all night, which isn't a problem at all, but then the next morning, she said she spent more than she expected to, and now she could no longer afford the double date. She said I would have to pay for everything, or we would have to cancel because she can't afford it. Now, I was so annoyed because she had known about the plans for weeks, so she really should have planned for it. I told her that she should have come back when she said that she would instead of staying out, and then we wouldn't have this problem in the first place. She just said that she didn't plan on it, but that no one else was leaving and people wanted her to stay, so she ended up sticking around. But I just said that she should have thought about the other plans that she had and not expect me to pay for her night because she decided to ignore the fact that we had made plans. She said that was unfair and that I was wrong for being angry with her. I told her how awful it's going to look canceling now just because she decided that her colleagues were way more important and because she refused to say no to them. She just repeated that I was being unfair and that we don't have to cancel if I pay for her share of the night. But I refused, and I told her that I can lend her money and she can pay me back, but that I'm not paying for her just because she went over budget at the work event. She refused the offer of me lending her money and said that I was being a jerk for starting an argument. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, honestly. I think your girlfriend was being very irresponsible, and now she's feeling the full weight of it. Like seriously, all she had to do was put money aside for this trip. Like that's a very small thing to expect, honestly, for a night out with you and your friend. This also doesn't sound like your average double date. Like it really seems like you planned big for this, and you even have a hotel set up for the night just to enjoy this. So yeah, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your girlfriend's being unreasonable, especially with her being like, no, I'm not gonna pay you back, but you still need to pay for my night in full. It's like, seriously, at least compromise a little bit. Because at the end of the day, she knew exactly what she was doing, and it is seriously immature for her to act like this is now your responsibility, even though she's the one that threw away all of her money. Am I the jerk for not wanting my stepniece in my wedding, even though my nephews are going to be a part of it? Because I'm honestly trying to avoid her bratty behavior, and I know for a fact she will ruin my ceremony if I let her in. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, my biological nephews are 8 and 10 years old. When they were 4, their parents went through a very messy divorce, and as a result, I took them in for 3 years. I'm not going to go into detail, but my brother became a drunk, and the mom didn't want anything to do with them, so that's why I took them in. I met my husband through the school they go to because his daughter is in the same class. During the 3rd year, my brother got married to his wife, who has a daughter with terrible manners. She is 9 years old, so she is old enough, but she is a kid who will throw tantrum at events when it's not about her. For example, she blew the candles on my nephew's birthday, and when he cried, he got reprimanded. But I took them out the next day so that he could blow out his own candles. Now, keep in mind, my brother still isn't making an effort with his own kids. Towards the end of the year, he demanded to have his kids back, and because of how the court arranged it, he was able to keep custody. I, however, still attended everything because the boys want me to. I never bonded with his wife or daughter because the sister-in-law is rude and she is very passive-aggressive. But I have made efforts to invite them to my house just so we can bond, but she ripped up my husband's daughter's favorite doll, and then my sister-in-law got mad at me for reprimanding her. So anyways, at my wedding, my daughter is going to be the only one in my wedding party as a flower girl, and my nephews are going to be the ring bearers. We have a no kids rule, so that means no stepniece, because I know she will throw a tantrum at my ceremony. The main issue is that she wants to be part of my wedding as a flower girl. But my answer is no, because I want my daughter to feel special, and to be completely honest, she is not important enough to me to want her to be in my wedding. Well, her mother is demanding that her daughter be a flower girl, or my nephews won't be taking part. She stated that I'm hurting a child's feeling by excluding her. But it's not that I want to exclude her, it's just that I know she is going to throw a temper tantrum the very moment that she knows she is not the center of attention, because no matter what, she does that. I told my brother that if this happens, I will cut off all financial support that I have given them, which he said was not fair. Keep in mind though, I would be paying for a babysitter at the hotel, and I have chosen a venue that's close to a theme park, so while the ceremony goes on, she will be there, and then my daughter and nephews will join them for the rest of the time, and then go back to the hotel to go to bed and everything else while the reception still goes through. Because this is a destination wedding, I will be paying for my parents' and brother's room and a babysitter, which I think is generous and way more fun than being in a wedding, which can be stressful. My brother is telling me to sort it out with my sister-in-law, and my parents understand me but told me to let it go. My daughter wants to be the only flower girl, but also wants my nephews, and they cried when they thought they couldn't be a part of the wedding. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, your stepniece has shown a history of being a spoiled brat, and it's always been detrimental towards you and your kids. And in my opinion, that is just completely unacceptable. The parents are clearly not doing their job and keeping that kid in check, and it's honestly not fair for you to have to deal with that at your wedding. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your sister-in-law and her daughter are learning the consequences of their actions. And while you can't really control if the nephews are able to be the ring bearers at the ceremony, you can still make a firm stance that that stepniece is not going to be there, no matter how much begging and screaming they try to do. An entitled father doesn't feel the need to clean up after his destructive kid's mess. And I'm honestly so sick of this guy, and I seriously hope I don't have to deal with him ever again. Here's what happened. So I have a nearly 4-year-old daughter, and our next door neighbors has a son the same age. Their birthdays are a week apart, and the kids are best friends and love playing together, though we try to limit it because they have a dynamic that gets them really rowdy and very riled up. For the sake of the story, we'll call my daughter Frida and our next door neighbor's son Fred. Frida and Fred are not their real names. Fred is a handful, and I think his mom does her best, but Fred's dad, he is so whiny and entitled it is infuriating. So the other day, all the neighbors with kids got together to do a little winter bonfire in the backyard, you know, roast marshmallows and make bread on a stick in the fire, and so I got sent out to get a hold of some good sticks that we could use, and I decided to take Frida and Fred with me. We live in townhouses where there is a long row of garden plots that you can rent. One of the spaces is unused and full of the branches and things people cut out of their gardens, so we head over there to grab some sticks, and the kids bring a couple of toy shovels that they're playing with. As I'm trying to cut branches, the kids go into the next garden plot. Now, I know the older lady who has it, and she is always welcoming to the kids playing on her plot, and is always offering them strawberries or peas from the garden, so I figured that it was okay for them to play there for a couple of minutes. Well, I hear stones hitting the ground and manic laughter, so I look over and I see Fred is kicking over all the bricks that this lady had made a raised planter out of. Then, my squealing Frida is grabbing bricks and throwing them. I put a stop to that real fast, and I told them that we have to rebuild the planter and that it's not okay to ruin other people's things. Fred eventually got bored with that and found a place that he could dig a hole. I told him he needed to help, but I couldn't make him. Frida helped me fix the planter and went to play with Fred when we finished. I went back into the patch of branches, cut what I needed, and came back out after 3 minutes. Now, I had heard that they were digging in some dirt, and that was fine, but as I'm coming out, I hear the impish voice of someone saying, "Oh, we know we're being naughty," as well as them giggling again. Well, I found they had dug all the gravel out of another neighbor's garden and were flinging it all over the parking lot. Now, this time I was angry. Had I not just told them not to ruin other people's gardens? And now we had to clean up this mess as well. Like, this is not okay. I told Frida to run home and get the big broom, and I told Fred to start shoveling gravel back in place. Frida took off to fetch it, but Fred sat down and resolutely informed me that I'm not his dad and he doesn't have to listen to me. But I told him that when he's with me, he most certainly does, just like Frida has to listen to me. And when I said this, Fred ended up crying. So I call his dad, and I say that I need some reinforcements as we have a situation over here. Frida comes back with a broom and I get her started on shoveling. I'm sweeping and I can see it's hard for her to understand why she has to help, all while Fred is just sitting there playing with his shovel. So I explain it's because Fred doesn't want to help clean up the mess that they had made, but that Fred's dad was coming to make him do the right thing too. Eventually, Fred's dad shows up and I explain what's happened and that we need to get this cleaned up and fix this planter that they destroyed. But instead, he goes to Fred and says, "Oh, buddy, are you tired? You're acting like this because you had a long day, huh? Do you want to go home and have some juice and watch some Paw Patrol?" And I say out loud, after you get this mess cleaned up, right? I told the kids that we need to fix this before we go back. He responded to me by saying, "Nah, it's just kids being kids. Let the garden owners fix it. They won't know who did it anyways. Besides, I'm freezing out here. Aren't you cold, Fred? Let's get going." Frida then says that she's cold as well and wants to go with Fred. But I told her that I was also cold, but we can't just leave someone's garden in ruins or leave gravel all over the place. So we swept and shoveled everything back in place for 20 minutes. Frida asked about why Fred didn't have to help and got to watch TV about 15 times. I could see the cogs in her little head turning, trying to figure out why she was being punished while Fred got rewarded, and I just didn't know what to say to her, besides saying that in our family, we take responsibility and we clean up our own messes. I had to bite my tongue and not add that Fred's dad is entitled and that the apple doesn't fall far from the entitlement tree. But hopefully, I don't ever have to deal with that kid or his entitled father in this way ever again. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Here you are trying to develop good habits with your kid, and then this Fred kid, as well as his stupid father, pretty much ruin everything you're trying to do. That is seriously not fair. It really sets a weird precedent, and just like you noted, it's only going to cause problems when it comes to I don't know, teaching responsibility, because what the dad of Fred did is super inappropriate. He basically said, yeah, it's okay to break other things as long as you don't get caught. And it's no, it's not. What if that was your garden that somebody destroyed? I'm pretty sure they would be upset if someone destroyed your hard work. That is such an awful example to set for your 4-year-old kid, and I think you were in the right to tell your daughter, well, in our house, we correct our mistakes. And I seriously don't think that the original poster was being overbearing or anything like that. He was seriously just trying to fix the things that these kids had broken. And in my opinion, I think it's a horrible example to basically convince your kid that if you don't get caught, then it is okay to try and break other people's stuff. My entitled aunt always forces me or my family members to bring stuff from our home country over to France so that she can enjoy items that she doesn't want shipped to her house. And after dealing with this for so long, I'm honestly exhausted. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I think context is needed before saying what I'm about to say, so I really need to explain some things first. I am planning on visiting my aunt and uncle in France for 2 weeks in April. I am not currently working and I'm just doing job interviews to get back into the workforce. So I'm living in my parents' places and I'm using my savings. I'm also in the process of applying to medical school, and I am going to take the medical school entrance exam before April of 2024. I was planning on going on a trip afterwards with them as a reward to me, and I spent about $800 on tickets. So it's my aunt, my uncle, and my cousin there as well. And I'm basically going to be joining them. Now, whenever they visit, we are always the ones to book hotels, tickets, and pay for gas money, and they pay for food once in a while. She is taking care of the Airbnb cost and the gas and the tickets, and I'm planning on doing the same by footing the bill for restaurants once in a while. Now, with that bit of context out of the way, this is where things kind of get weird. My aunt has the strangest thing that she always does. And in my opinion, my grandma is like this with very little boundaries, so I'm going to assume that my aunt is like this because of that. My aunt always burdens people when they travel. When my grandma comes from India, she tells her to carry multiple pounds of lentils to bring to France. When my family goes to India, we sometimes go through France when we return back home, and since we have a large weight allowances for our final destination to America, she would sometimes ask us to carry heavy bundles of rice and grains, and we sometimes have to leave things behind that we bought for us from India just to accommodate what she wants weight-wise. This always made me angry because we rarely come to India, and it's really expensive and we end up leaving our items for her. My aunt regularly goes to India, and she is a single woman who's only responsible for one ticket, by the way. And sometimes we will meet her during during a trip. She will send stuff to our house for us to bring along, and this has been going on for years. So last summer, for example, we were going to India to visit my grandparents, and she was in India for a month-long trip and told us to buy 10 giant bottles of shampoo, which she paid us back for, and sent handbags and clothes to our house. She would buy this all from a US website and then have it shipped to our address. So, as a result, we had to add an extra suitcase just to accommodate her things. We also have my brother with a disability, and my mom has a push wheelchair. So the two of us, meaning my dad and I, were left to handle 4 giant suitcases all by ourselves. Reducing the luggage weight is always a must for us because 2 of my family members have disabilities, and my dad also has back issues, meaning that all of our luggage is handled by 2 people. And never ever have we done anything like this. It always blows my mind. We are all the type of people to never want to burden others, and I've never made her bring anything for me. When she comes to the US from France, I have never bought things from a French website, sent it to her home, and then made her carry all of that for me when she travels to see us. It's just rude to burden people like that. It's honestly just what I think, and I've honestly just been raised to know this fact. And you also should never burden others as well. Now, similarly for this upcoming trip, she has also sent to my house 5 dresses and 2 handbags, as well as multiple board games for my cousin. She also asked me to buy 6 giant shampoo bottles of dandruff shampoo that she uses, and that she will pay me back when I get there. I also have to get an entirely different suitcase, all for this, by the way. I myself have to carry all my stuff and also her garbage. And I don't even have my dad this time to help me out. I wanted to buy a blowout brush which works in the Indian voltage, and the US has a different voltage, and my hair tools won't work in India. But since France and India have the same voltage, I bought this brush on the French Amazon and I sent it to her home. She picked it up from her front porch and it's sitting at her place. When I come there, I will pick it up and take it back to the United States. And that's the only favor I've ever asked of her, to literally just pick something up from her front door and keep it inside. I mean, she doesn't even have to carry it. And I conveniently sent it to her home so that I can pick it up when I come there. In the past, I did test her just to ask for a small favor. There's a hair dye in India that I really like, and she was going to India herself. I asked her to get me 10 packets of those so that I can pick it up when I come to France. Mind you, it is extremely light, and it's not like the American dye boxes. It's a small, flat packet with just dye and developer, and all 10 packets added together probably weighed about 1 pound. We're talking about the weight of maybe 1 to 2 apples. But guess what? She didn't even do that. She got back home to France and just said, "Oops, I forgot." She couldn't even get such a light and tiny thing, but I have to get her 6 giant shampoo bottles and carry that, the clothes, handbags, and board games that she sent over. Honestly, burdening people coming to visit me by making them carry multiple pounds of heavy items wouldn't even cross my mind. I hate that I've been put on the spot like this. I am not at all a confrontational person, and part of me feels like this is some sort of power play on her part, since she makes a lot more money and is footing the bill for the gas, hotels, and tickets. Maybe she thinks that I have to allow anything that she does now, or something like that. Maybe she's trying to see how she can benefit from this and wants to use me coming here for this. Honestly, I don't know how to talk to her in a polite way, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your aunt sounds really intrusive. Like, who in their right mind wouldn't just order stuff and then have it shipped to your house? Like, I can understand if it's something small that she wants you to bring over, but for you to be expected to have this giant suitcase that you have to bring with all of her stuff in there, like, that is really extreme, and that's so unfair. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would start communicating with her and saying explicitly, "Listen, I can't bring all this with me. It is too much and I can't handle it on my own." If anything, maybe even offer to like ship it to her directly, because the way she's having it set up right now is so unfair. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely not want to put up with this. My boyfriend has been secretly jealous of all the hobbies that I spend time on, as he feels that I'm not spending enough time with him. So in retaliation, he destroyed nearly all of my personal property related to my hobbies. And now I'm left with hundreds of dollars worth of personal property damage, as well as feeling devastated for the sentimental value that I just lost. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this is honestly the weirdest thing I've ever experienced, and I have no idea what to do. So I'm a 21-year-old female, and I have lots of hobbies. I'm sort of what you might call a hobby collector, but my top ones right now are running and training for a marathon, as well as baking, reading, and also doing something called junk journaling. And with that last one, I'm not sure if anyone is familiar. But more specifically, I've been doing reading since I was just a young teenager. This started about 6 months ago when I saw that several of my old books were dog-eared, which I don't do to my books. I asked my boyfriend if he had read them, which I would be totally fine with, by the way, but he insisted that he had not touched them at all. And I thought to myself, okay, that's weird, but whatever. Then after that, I literally could never find my running shoes. I bought a rather expensive pair and keep them separate from my other shoes because I'm a nurse and my hospital shoes are really nasty. But the running shoes I could never find. They would always turn up days later though, somewhere I definitely had not put them. Again, this is weird, but nothing to really raise any alarms. But then my journal got completely destroyed. Somehow it was left outside in our garage where it is known to leak when it rains. It didn't necessarily get water damage, but the moisture made all my pages peel up and practically ruined 28 pages of it. The pages take me over an hour each, and I'm quite proud of them. So 28 plus hours of artwork is just ruined. Now this might sound really stupid, but I genuinely started to believe the house was haunted. I did shed a few tears over my journal, and my boyfriend rolled his eyes at that, but helped me glue them all back down and salvage as much as possible. I had a fleeting thought that he put it out there, but it was honestly so weird. I was like, why would he do that? Then it was back to my books. I had a huge bookshelf of about 200 books because I read books daily, but I started to notice that one by one they were all disappearing, like straight up gone. I searched every corner of the house and I could not find them. I even texted all three of my sisters, my brother, and my boyfriend's sister asking if they had borrowed any of them and just didn't tell me, but they all said that they had not. My boyfriend's sister borrows my books often, but she always asked me first and insisted that she didn't have any of them. And when this happened, I was thinking to myself, okay, what is going on? But then it started happening with my baking. I could never find my mixers or my baking sheets or anything whenever I wanted to bake. The final straw though was when I found my KitchenAid mixer broken. It would literally just not turn on. And if you don't know, those things are expensive. So I straight up asked him, did you do this? Like, why is all this stuff broken or lost recently? Well, he finally admitted to purposefully hiding or breaking my things because my hobbies annoyed him. And when he said that, I was honestly blown away. I'm not gonna lie, at that point I exploded. I told him he was a weirdo for touching my stuff and that it was honestly so strange to do this as an adult. He proceeded to defend himself, saying that I was spending more time on my made-up hobbies than on him, and this was the only way to make me focus on our relationship again. Which for context, by the way, isn't true at all. I thought that we had a great relationship. We go on dates twice a week, we spend quality time together regularly, if you know what I mean, and we get along with each other's family and friends. Like, I'm so confused. We've been together for 2 whole years. I love him so much, and other than this odd behavior, he's so good to me. After that argument, I was genuinely so distraught that I left the house and I went to the house my sisters live in, as they live together. They also agreed that it was the oddest thing in the world. The icing on the cake, though, is that when I got home this morning, he threw out all of my stuff. He cut the soles out of my running shoes, he cut the laces, he threw out my Apple Watch and destroyed my baking items, he cut up the silicone molds, and the box that had all of my missing books in it, they were in the dumpster with all of my other journal supplies. The journal he helped me fix was torn to shreds, and at this point, I genuinely started to sob. I know it sounds dumb and overdramatic, but I genuinely worked so hard on my journal that it made me cry. Literally hundreds of dollars, and some of my favorite books in the trash. Money spent on baking supplies, which I used to bake for my baby cousin's elementary school. All of it just completely ruined. I just don't understand what is wrong with him. He's never been like this before, ever. I'm genuinely so confused about what's gotten into him. Is it something else that he could be projecting or something like that? Because at this point, I'm genuinely so confused and I don't know what to do. Wow, this guy's a massive jerk. Like, this guy went crazy. He started throwing all your stuff out and destroying your property, all because you weren't spending enough time with him. Like, if that doesn't prove that he's overly controlling and he absolutely is a violent narcissist, then I don't know what will. Like, to the original poster, I'm being completely serious. This guy not only doesn't sound safe, but he also sounds crazy. Like, any rational human being wouldn't go about destroying your stuff all because you assume that they're not spending enough time with you. Like, if he really felt that he was left out of this relationship, he very easily could have talked to you and said, hey, I want to spend more time together, or at least find some kind of like compromise in like how you spend your time or something like that, even though it sounds like you weren't doing anything wrong in the first place. Like, this guy just sounds straight up crazy. I can't imagine wanting to not only stay with someone like that, but also wanting to live under the same roof as someone like that. Like if I was in your shoes, I'd be dumping him so fast, I'd be moving out of that place, and I would also be half tempted to file like a police report because you said it yourself. This guy destroyed hundreds of hours worth of personal property for you, and a lot of this is sentimental that you absolutely can never get back. Like this guy, who I hope is soon to be your ex-boyfriend, quite literally is a monster in my opinion, and you do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I work as a server and I finally caught COVID. And now, after being quarantined for 5 days, I'm getting ready to go back to work, but I seriously don't feel ready. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so I am currently at a complete loss. I have been a career server for almost 10 years, and I have worked mainly in fine dining for the past 5 to 6 years. I was one of the lucky few who had not caught COVID-19 throughout the pandemic and was able to go back to working in the restaurant after lockdowns were lifted. Well, this past Friday, I was feeling sick with what I thought to be a moderate cold or flu situation. I knew I wasn't going to be able to come in on a busy night, especially if I'm not feeling well, so I opted to go to an urgent care to get a note and show management that yes, I truly was under the weather. Unfortunately for me, I was told I did in fact have COVID, and because I'm an asthmatic and a high risk for hospitalization, I should immediately start medication while quarantined. Now, my quarantine was only 5 days, but I reached out to my management to extend it by 2 days since I still had not been feeling great. They have been kind yet very distant about everything, and they helped me find coverage. However, I have realized everything I do makes me totally winded. I am on the road to recovery now and without fevers, chills, and sneezing, but my shortness of breath happens when I walk around too much or even stand too long. I am now horrified to go back to work the day after tomorrow when my shift starts back up. I really feel at a loss because I am not qualified for other jobs, and I worry I can no longer perform the same extensive work I used to. Before COVID, I would lift up to 50 pounds for a tray, I would be fast walking around the large dining room, and I would be keeping up with the tables. I genuinely don't know what to do. I don't want to quit or even worse, get fired. Has anyone ever had something like this happen to them? I know long COVID is diagnosed about 2 months out, so I won't be able to apply for any type of assistance as of now. I mean, should I just grin and bear it through the breathlessness? I even have a hard time walking and talking with my significant other as of now, and I worry about waiting on tables in the same way. It makes me question if my serving days are behind me. I really need this money, and honestly, I simply don't know what to do. This is really awful. Like seriously, I understand where you're coming from. You are incredibly worried you're about to lose your job or like not be able to work at your job, and this is literally the only thing that you're good at. But I know if I was in your shoes, I would go directly to my doctor and be like, hey, I need a note of some kind stating that I can't work for long periods of time and that you need to have like a lighter load at work or something like that. But hopefully you have managers who have a soul and they're like, oh, I totally understand, take your time. Or they at least give you a lighter load because you're literally just now getting over COVID. It's only been 5 days and you still feel like garbage because at this point you are definitely not running at 100%. And hopefully your managers see that when you show up for work. Am I the jerk for pretending that I didn't know I was adopted just to make my teacher feel incredibly embarrassed? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm in high school and this was in my English class. Our real teacher is on a paternity leave, so we have a long-term substitute. So yesterday she was telling us she wants us to write personal memoirs about something very important in our lives, and she goes about listing various examples for different students. She then told me that I could write about being adopted and how I felt when my parents told me. Now, I must have made a face then because I'm not adopted. I have 2 dads, but they had me through surrogacy. So technically there was a legal adoption from my non-biological dad, but one of my dads is my biological dad, and my biological mom is my other dad's sister who donated her egg and carried me. I think it would be a stretch to call me adopted. Also, this substitute has no basis to even know any of this because anything I've written in class is just about having 2 dads. Anyway, she's kind of old school and doesn't like when we talk too loud, which to her is talking at a normal indoor level on group assignments, or when we make any normal faces or anything. So she basically called me out on making a face and said to me, if you don't want to write about being adopted, you can choose another important topic in your life. Maybe about how you help your dad at home. Now for reference, one of my dads has cerebral palsy and is mostly blind from optic neuropathy. I did write briefly about that in the intro assignment with our other teacher teacher, so he must have left them with her to get to know the class. Now, I was so confused, so I said to her, "I'm not adopted." She just put her hand over her heart and goes, "Oh, honey." So now my brain, which was lagging, finally caught up and realized she's only thinking I'm adopted, all because I have two dads. So at this point, I'm like, whatever, I'll just play into it. So I look upset and I say to her, "I didn't know I was adopted." Now, at this point, she's kind of panicking a bit and telling everyone to just start writing something. A lot of my friends are laughing under their breath because they know I'm not adopted, so she's telling everyone to quiet down and that it's not funny and to just get to work. But I'm just like, what do you mean I'm adopted? She's trying to tell me not to worry about it and just ask my dads when I get home. And I'm like, how can I be adopted? So she just sends me to the school counselor, and I told her this story basically, and she just gave off the vibe that it was awful to mess with a sub in that way, and I could have just explained that I'm not adopted because now I've made her worry unnecessarily and I've embarrassed her. Now, here's the thing. I do not think parts of my life are up to her to decide what I want to share or not, and I feel like it's on her if she feels embarrassed for assumptions that she made. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I personally think that the substitute teacher there is completely in the wrong, and I would even go as far as to say that she needs to be reported. Here's the thing, I don't blame you for playing a prank on her, but for her to even share that information in the first place is like a massive breach of trust. She is sharing something that is absolutely none of her business, and it really comes off as intrusive and incredibly rude. Like, you don't just do that to someone without talking to him first. Like, if I knew something about somebody else and I decided to share that information with like the entire class or another group of people, all without their permission in the first place to share that publicly, I could imagine that they would be pretty upset that I did that. I know I would be upset if someone's sharing my personal business. So no, you are not the jerk. That substitute teacher absolutely is in the wrong, as they had no right to try and make the assumption that you're adopted. My boyfriend of 3 years confessed that he is still not sure if he wants to get married. And after dealing with this for so long, as well as waiting for him to pop the question, I have finally decided that enough is enough, and I have now moved out of the townhouse that we used to live in. And right about now, I'm wondering if I made the right decision, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I are both 37 and 36 years old, and we've been together for just under 3 years, including a 9-month period in the middle when he was deployed to the Middle East. During the time he was gone, I took care of his 90-pound dog and completely gutted and renovated his townhouse. When the renovations were done, I moved in, and a month later he came home. We have been living together ever since. During the year that we have lived together, I have essentially been a wife to him. Before I moved in, he lived like a teenage boy. The house was messy and dirty, there was broken furniture, and he kept the poor dog in a crate for 8 hours a day without any walks, and the only cleaning that was happening was done by his mother on an occasional basis. I turned his house into a home. I made sure the dog was exercised and cared for properly. I did the grocery shopping, cooking, laundry. I made sure that every aspect of my boyfriend's life ran smoothly. Early in our relationship, we began to discuss marriage. In these conversations, we discussed how important having children was for each of us, as well as my anxiety about my biological clock. He led me to believe that he would propose before he left for his deployment and that marriage would follow upon his return. But needless to say, he did not propose before he left, which was disappointing but certainly not a deal breaker. I believed that he would propose soon after he returned home from deployment, but he did not. We had serious discussions and arguments about marriage and our timelines in March, June, August, and October. In each instance, he shared that he was not sure yet and attributed this uncertainty to his belief that we needed to improve our communication. Each time, I modified my behavior to improve our relationship, but I did not really see any changes on his part. In August of this past year, we talked about a 5-year plan, and I shared with him how I ideally saw things progressing. I shared my hope to start trying for a baby next summer, and he agreed and said that he was excited and on board. In October, I told him that if he was still unsure about marriage when my birthday rolled around in early January, then I was going to take that as a sign to move on. Over the past couple of months, he has repeatedly told me how much he loves me, how he appreciates me and wants to spend the rest of his life with me. He even hinted about the upcoming proposal. However, on the night before my birthday, he told me he was not going to propose to me because he was having doubts and wanted us to continue to improve our relationship. He expressed the same things about communication, acknowledging that it was him who needed to improve. We had more conversations over the past week, and yesterday I came home from work and I moved as much of my stuff out as I could possibly fit in my car. I am heartbroken because I truly love him and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. I also really want to have a baby before it's too late for me, and I can't believe I have to start over at square one. I worry that I will never find someone to spend my life with, that I will never meet someone I love like him. I recognize that at his age and after 3 years, if he isn't sure now, then he will never be. And it's honestly just so hard, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Yeah, I can understand the dilemma here. This is one of those situations where, like, yeah, you've really articulated how you feel, and you felt like both of you were on the same page. Like, he even said, yeah, marriage and having kids are really important to me, or at least alluded to that in some kind of way. So for him to like suddenly double back and be like, well, maybe not so much anymore, or come up with this weird excuse that the both of you need to work on your relationship, only to then clarify that he's the one that needs to change things in his life. It's all really messy, and honestly, it just screams to me that he doesn't want to get married, and he is just not ready to commit to make that step. So with all things considered, I don't blame you for taking this step and sticking to your boundary. I mean, you really did lay it out quite clearly that your boyfriend needs to make a decision, otherwise you're gonna move on with your life, because this is clearly very important to you. And in my opinion, I think you deserve to be with someone who also feels the exact same way. Am I the jerk for ignoring another teacher and telling them that I'm busy in front of my class? Here's what happened. So I'm a 30-year-old male and I've been teaching at a school for 2 years now. I am in my 7th year of teaching and I'm good at it. Students like me and I do well in my class. The other teacher of my subject, Mr. D, that's not his real name, has been at the school for 20 years. He is very particular about how he wants things done, and the majority of students hate him because he is extremely rude and has some anger issues. Many students have told me that they think he is bipolar because he goes from being overly friendly to aggressive at the drop of a hat, but I always shut down these conversations. A student was talking about him and said he has a specific expectation of what he wants you to do, but doesn't tell you how to do it, and then gets angry when you haven't done it the way he wants. This pretty much sums him up perfectly, and it is relevant to what happened next. Ever since I met him, Mr. D has been extremely rude to me, ranging from passive-aggressive comments to outright rudeness, to also saying negative things about me to students. Now, I have always brushed this off, and my head of department has even told him twice that this is unacceptable. Well, several months ago, Mr. D flipped out over something minor. He ended up coming to my class while I was teaching and demanded I talk outside. He attacked how I teach, how he thinks I'm not teaching the students properly by his standards, and how this isn't good enough. Now, this is incorrect, and I tried to get a word in, but he wouldn't let me. This went on for a couple of minutes as I stood there absolutely stunned. I turned around and looked in the room, and about half the class was listening to our conversation. I told him the conversation was over, and then I went back inside. I literally could not speak. I was so angry. I had to leave and go to the bathroom to collect myself, and about 10 minutes later, he sent me an email apologizing. I then emailed him back the next day, and he apologized several more times. Since then, I've ignored him, besides the most essential communication that I would need, which I try to keep to an email. Now, he has noticed this, as he keeps coming up to me and is trying to be nice and speak to me, but I don't give him anything beyond a one-word response and just walking away. The other day, we had an assembly, and some students sang in front of the entire school. Afterwards, he came up to me and said how nice it was, and I said, yeah, and then I just turned and walked away. The next period, he came to my class to speak to me again. So I said to him, it's pretty obvious that I'm busy right now. Send me an email, and if I have any time, I'll reply. I then turned my back to him and I continued speaking to a student. One of my students saw this and said that they saw me walk away from him during the assembly. They were laughing as they said it, but said that I was being rude to him, which they find very funny because they simply don't like him. Now, I spoke to another teacher and they said that I was being rude and I should have been nicer to Mr. D. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? First of all, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Mr. D actually came up to you while you were teaching and literally attacked you in front of all the students. Like, if you really want these students to hate you even more, then just do that in front of someone else's class. Like, that behavior is so unacceptable and it really is completely unprofessional. It also seems like he's only being nice to you because he knows what he did is so wrong. And by the way, you have a paper trail you can submit to HR or something like that. Like, you very easily could forward all those emails to the principal and be like, look, this guy is bothering me. me. He even admits to being a jerk earlier, and he still comes up to me trying to like make amends for something that I don't want to talk about. Because this guy is obnoxious. He really is trying to like manipulate you and basically try to like control how you feel about him. So with all that in mind, I don't think you're the jerk. I think Mr. D is absolutely out of line because he absolutely has no business talking to you in that manner. Thanks for watching, everybody. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and be sure to click the bell to turn on notifications. Also, if you haven't already, please go to the description and check out Am I the Genius. We love what they're doing. They're doing some fantastic work, and I think you're going to like it as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.